Good.
It's so bad. It's so hot. Trying to bring food, you just first up? I got it already. Liz on, I got it. Ahead of the game, bro. So I get to smacking the control.
Congrats. Well, but I'm also not. What do I look like? I can just leap over the table.
Geometry would not work.
You said the movement. Well, man.
Budget, man. Yep. It's an important day. People get to fight for their dollars.
I love you, Chris.
You know how much I love you? That's on video now.
You can still end up on video because all I need to do is turn the computer.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything about that. I was saying that I was on video. I assumed you could hear my voice.
Yes, that's on audio.
Yeah.
What is that?
Greetings, people of the internet.
Shrimp burrito bowl.
Wow, that was good.
You want some?
Hey guys,
I believe it.
want to take this table and make another row?
Or anything else in this world? I believe in people. Not nations. And if someone's here and it wasn't them for a fault, and they want to do something that's ready to
You try to touch my orange floor. You know what happened in Florida?
How much, man? Where'd you get that? Union. They've got floats. If it's safety, everything they can.
717.
Now, the best thing they have is brown.
If you end up doing this again next year, or if someone does, you should actually try to get a real camera.
Yeah, the thing is that requires money.
I mean, there's no reason that the one like say like the office of the vice president couldn't allocate for something like that. I mean, that is applicable to Senate. You know what I mean? It'd be possibly the Senate's property. You know what I mean?
Yes, I get it.
Sure. Why is everyone giving me crap? I did the same thing. What?
I call this meeting to order at 7:34. The first item on the agenda is attendance.
Senator Andriaghi. Senator Andriaghi. Senator Blazin Brown.
Present.
Senator Barad.
Here.
Senator Cheslak.
Present.
Senator DiVirgilio. Senator Fang.
Here.
Senator Ippolito.
Present.
Senator Jaminow.
Present.
Senator Jank.
Here.
Senator Jordan Arnett. Senator Jordan Arnett absent. Senator Kumar, present by proxy. Mr. Ikoshia.
Presente.
Senator Lashman. Senator Lamborghino.
Present.
Senator Lee.
Do you have a pen on you?
Senator Lee.
Dr. Barr, real quick.
Senator Mealy.
Does that
Senator
have
Meow.
the gas? The
Senator Meow absent. Senator Peterson.
Is the footing slipping here?
Senator
For
Peterson
what?
absent.
James' footing
PPT
slip.
Pomeroy.
I don't know, what did he say?
Senator
What did he-
Stovall, present by
He
proxy.
said,
Mr. Barad.
Treasurer Brad instead of Senator Brad. Is that in here?
Senator Said.
The minutes aren't always a literal interpretation.
Senator Wilkinson.
Sometimes-
Yeah, I know, I definitely never used the
Senator
word
Williams.
left.
Present.
The week before
Ready to
last.
do. President Lakar. EVP Al-Rasi. Treasurer Michaud. VP Chung. VP Chung absent. VP Myers. VP Myers absent. VP Pacia.
Present.
VP Adelson.
Present.
Quorum exists.
Senator Polito.
I move to amend the agenda adding item 1.1, approval of last meeting's minutes.
Second.
And agenda item 1.2, 2015-2016 budget.
Second. Are there any objections? The motion passes. Moving on to item agenda 1.1, the approval of last meeting minutes.
I move to approve last meeting's minutes.
Second. Seconded by Senator Barad. Are there any objections?
Seeing none.
Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call vote on the approval of last meeting's minutes.
Senator Blazin Brown.
Aye.
Senator Barad.
Aye.
Senator Cheslak.
Yes.
Senator DiVirgilio.
Yes.
Senator Fang.
Yes.
Senator Ippolito.
Aye.
Senator Jaminow.
Aye.
Senator Jiang.
Yes.
Proxy Akochia.
Yes.
Senator Lakshmanan.
Yes.
Senator Lamborghino.
Aye.
Senator Mealy.
Aye.
PPT Pomeroy.
Aye.
Proxy Barad.
Yes.
Senator Said.
Yes.
Senator Wilkinson.
Yes.
Senator Williams. Aye.
Technically, everyone is supposed to say I when
Yeah, I know. It's
Good
Vote of
divide.
17-0-0, the motion passes. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, the approval of the 2015 budget. I'll do all the senators
Did you
have
just
the
get
budget in
two?
front of them?
No,
you just
no, he didn't.
I'll
We
hand
added
it
a
over
one
to
point one and a
Treasurer
one point
Michaud
two.
to present the budget.
1.1 was the budget. No, 1.1 was the meetings, 1.2 was the budget.
okay.
Alrighty.
Hey. Hey, Kat.
So we've been spending a lot of time on this, as most of you are pretty well aware. We changed the budget process up quite a bit from what was done in previous years. So this year, what we had as our main objective was to make sure that every club was able to have enough funding to function, provided that they followed the correct policies and procedures. Those included, being in compliance, being in good standing with the university, with USG, everything that's listed in our constitution, sending your application in by the deadlines, all of that sort of business. So after that, we went through every single application and really tried to cut out for the first round everything that clubs didn't, not just clubs, but USG and everything that's on the budget didn't need to function. This was so that we would have a preliminary state to kind of go through and then we added just to make sure that everyone had at least the bare minimums. So once we did that, we went through and we listened to everybody at the budget hearings, everybody who attended. And then based off of that, we did another round of edits and we went through and either cut out a couple things that turns out that weren't entirely necessary, but added in things that were. So if anyone has particular questions, for example, on their own budget or anything within USG, I have breakdowns of pretty much everything on the laptop, but it's small, but hopefully you can kind of see it. I also said that those are being posted up on the website, and they weren't quite yet, but they will be after this. I have them on a completely shared version, so that'll all be listed. So how many people in the gallery have a copy of the budget? Can everyone at least see it looking on with a friend? Yeah? Okay. So you'll notice a couple changes between this year and last year. First off, going through the clubs part, Commuter Student Association was changed from a club to an agency because RHA had their one. This was done in the previous Senate meeting, which kind of shifts the funds a little bit as to how they were allocated. So last year, you'll see that there were $999,000 or so applied to what were qualified as clubs. This year, the number is smaller, but as I'll explain later on, there's an additional $300,000 that's left over. Reason being is that there are a lot of clubs that either missed the deadline, are going from SSC to line budget in the fall, or weren't able to apply because of like waiting on constitution reviews or something like that. So we did purposely leave a lot of extra funding in there for those clubs. We have large clubs like USG, CSO, clubs like that, who just either forgot to submit an application or submitted the wrong one, something like that. So we wanted to make sure that they would be able to function next year too. So they'll be able to apply through call revisions. So yeah, you'll probably notice pretty closely that there's a lot more zeros this year than there were last year. We did try and take the appropriate steps to mitigate that. Last year, there was only one email sent out regarding dates. This year, I tried to make sure that I sent out at least 4, created a Facebook page. There were at least 2 posts regarding the deadlines there, and they got the deadline up on the website by January 18th. Moving down from clubs, it's still, most clubs did see an increase, besides the ones that were ineligible, either from losing line budget status being moved down to SSC, from breaking one of the bylaws earlier in the semester, or from not submitting an application or something. Campus Rec, we did unfortunately take $2,000 off. This was mostly just because they do have uniforms that they recycle year to year. They do need updates with them because they do kind of wear thin, but we only allocated for about half of the ones that they had asked for in that. I'm not sure how familiar most people are with our budget and what we actually use as our contracted services, but for Campus Rec, the benefits that we get for paying for their services are intramurals, different events that they call on off-campus trips, fitness classes, and they are really trying to push professional development. So one of the big things that they do is provide opportunities for people to learn how to referee, gain qualifications that can help them make money in other leagues, etc. On campus. So those were a couple of things that we saw as worth investments. NIPER, I did receive an application from them. The Statesman, this year they are adding in Scope the Funder, and they were also having a hard time operating based off of the expenses that they have been allocated for this previous year. So we did increase that bit. In the application that they sent in, we cut like a certain amount of it. I think the application was for $55,000 if I remember correctly. What we did was for all the papers, we assumed that we would cover about 60% of the cost because the undergraduate student body they are probably the ones benefiting by about 60%, considering that you still have graduate students, full-time students, and alumni that benefit. So we thought it was kind of fair to share the mix, and then this amount, since they did receive less than this from us in previous years, we knew that they would still be able to at least operate. So that was the reasoning behind that. Stony Brook Childcare, we were told that they'd be able to function at the same level as they have been with this level of funding. I know some people have had concerns that we pay for people who aren't undergraduates with SBU childcare, but this was something that was addressed in the budget hearings, and it was like 100% confirmed that this all goes towards undergrads, and there are still undergrads that have to pay additional funding just because this doesn't even begin to cover all the costs that they have to pay to maintain their services. CSERT, they acquired a decent amount of equipment from us this semester, and considering that they're relatively new to working with us, we wanted to take a step back. They got equipment, now they can function and make sure that they're able to maintain it before allocating more funds and seeing what extra services they can provide in future years. And SPVAC, you'll notice a $25,000 decrease. That's because we do have a 5-year plan with the university where they will pick up $25,000 for SPVAC costs every year until they reach about $40,000. And that will make it so that USG can reallocate that $25,000 towards other groups, other needs. So, are there any questions so far?
Yes, Senator Fallon.
Is this 2015 budget?
Yeah, so I made a bit of visual error, and the title says 2015 to 2015 budget. So there might want to be a motion to have it be 2015 to 2016 budget.
Senator Brown.
Motion to amend title of the budget to 2015 to 2016 budget.
Second by Senator Jomino. Is there any debates? Is that fair? Yes. So moved. Are there any other questions?
So walking through, one of the things that I really did, so before going to that, for our special projects, we have a $10,000 minimum contingency fund, our capital practice reserves, grants, last year at this time, there were $40,000 allocated towards grants. Since we had a good amount of money left over, and since the grant pool historically runs out extremely quickly, and also since there were a lot of parts of club budgets that were cut because of what that is, but that's why we added the $100,000. So as a prime example, ASI. So last year they had 9,000, but this year we allocated only 6,000-ish. But that's because the only thing that was actually cut was the event called ECOSU. So a lot of the different clubs, they apply for national regional event grant, and so they get money for that to to other ways. So you can't get a grant if you already have it in the budget. So if you see that your budget's a little bit lower than what you expected, there's a couple of reasons for that. That would be probably the primary one. And then driving records, so the $100 there, it wasn't used this year, but we decided to keep in the $100 because this enables out-of-state students to be able to get reimbursed for month checks. It's a lot easier to get it as a New York State driver, but if you're out of state and you want to be able to drive on school trips, if you're approved, you have to get the background check or the driving records check, and this allows you to get reimbursed for school records. And then moving on to the agency services and operations of USG. So this is one area where I really tried to cut this along with the following section. I was a little bit more successful in this area. So AV, we did increase a little bit. This is to accommodate for some of the actual costs that come in. So as most of you are well aware, there has been an increase in minimum wage, resulting in that, as well as some of the equipment needs to be updated, and we have our standard contracts, etc. Department of Web Technologies, that one I also increased. Reason being is that we pay $10,000 to Theoretics for Campus 9 every year. We also have a backend platform called Financial Edge, which I think more of you are aware of now. So that costs us $5,287 each year as well. So that was something that wasn't in the previous budget that we had to for this year. So that should be all set for next year. Executive council projects, that was reduced because it made sense to put those funds elsewhere where more people could have a decision before they run. Elections board, that's a pretty standard fee. So anytime that you run through USG, you're able to get petition packets or any sort of advertising documentation. It's all listed out in our constitution, first come, first served sort of thing. So there is a cap, I believe it's $40 per person for some of the stuff. But that's why that's there. That tends to fluctuate. Events management also increased because we kind of restructured a little bit how their work and how that's distributed. Office of Clubs and Organizations, so that's the budget that's used for the club leadership conferences. And we found that we were able to cross-cut a lot for that. So that's why that was reduced, and it makes sense to have extra there. Office of Communications, we've also been able to reduce costs there. Figured it made sense to be out of the past tutoring no longer exists, so that's gone. RHA was kept pretty constant. And CSA, which is now an agency as well, was brought down by a slight amount to be negligible in our overall budget. Southampton programming, considering that they don't have a governing body, it makes it so that they're not able to distribute funds. So again, it didn't make sense to allocate funds where they would never ever actually be able to be used. Special Services Council, we shaved 1,000 off of that, just because this year, whatever funds were used by the clubs in the fall, we reallocated so that they could be used for the clubs in the spring. So that kind of made it so that the stores almost replenished itself in a way, just like whatever wasn't used could be used again, and that worked out pretty well. And then SAB, we kept that constant, and the ticket office, we were able to find a couple of these prospects as well. Questions on that section?
Yes, Senator Blaise Brown.
I'm just curious, like, as to why we left like SAB constant.
So SAB, they were able to put on a lot of events this year, and then it's also to be able to put on more events every year. But at the same time, you have to have the infrastructure built for it. So like you probably just say more money, more problems. So it makes sense to make sure that we're operating the way that we're supposed to be before we add more to it, right?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was laughing at the more money, more problems. That is from hip hop culture.
I don't know, I just heard
Say what Nate was saying, like you know how Brookfest this year, like a lot of people are like annoyed with what's going on. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have more money allocated so we can make a bigger, you know, Brookfest for next year? People are looking for.
So, I mean, you guys are the Senate, you can add more Brookfest if you want to. My recommendation, or to SAB if you want to, but part of the reason why Brookfest has less funding than last year is because last year, 347,000-ish or so was spent on it. This year we tried to distribute the funds a little bit more evenly, because not everyone is going to like a rap or EDM concert, not everyone's going to like a rock concert. So the idea was kind of to spread the funds out, make sure that we tried to at least hit a topic that everybody would like, at least at some point in the year. So it felt a little bit more responsible. Now, I'm assuming that what you'd like to see is be able to put on events like that are the scale of Michigan, like more often. So of course that would require more funding. That's a tough balance to find out between whether you put more funding into SAB or more into clubs and organizations.
So follow up.
Yeah. Well, this year you actually have like a lot more budget that wasn't used, like 50,000 at the end, and last year was 52,000. So like, I don't know, you can take from.
Yeah, I mean, like you for sure should take from that, but keep in mind that everything that you take from that, you're going to have, that's going to be taken away from the funds that are going to be going through water revisions. Granted, they're going through water revisions for a reason, but at the same time, I don't even know the number off the top of my head, but you've got
24.
Yeah. How many?
24 clubs this year.
Yeah, so there's 24 clubs with zeros for their budget. There's, I believe, 8 possibly of them, or 7 or 8 that aren't able to get a line budget. Right now, because they were moved down to SEC, they were jumping the line because they had a budget last year. But you have USG who applied for 134,000 this year and wasn't able to get one. Just because they came through like well way after all of the clubs that applied after we started the next process.
Senator Blaise Brown.
Do we know how much, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, the process for fall revisions is that if you pass fall revisions, you are returned 50% of your original budget. Am I understanding that correctly?
So you can be
Awarded up to?
reinstated 50% of your original budget, but you also might have financial bylaw changes coming in at the first week of the semester.
So I guess like I was curious, do we have a total of like how much could say every single club pass fall revisions for the maximum 50%? Do you know how much of a ceiling that would cost?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but
I don't understand that.
USG that had about 60,000 this year, so that's at least 30,000. CSO was at least 50. We were normally around that 25.
PSO was 21.
Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna add up, plus you have a lot more clubs coming through SSC now that are trying to get onto my budget.
Okay.
Plus, some of those funds are then get allocated towards grants usually as it starts to filter out. So one of the things I did this year with the grant pool, why I didn't add more to the grant pool, was that I tried to space out the allocations. I tried to make sure that there was like enough in there to start with that people could use it for the fall, but make sure that it wasn't all spent in the fall, that there's definitely some in the spring. That way, there was a even distribution for types of fall component. Correct.
Proxy Akochia?
So what you're saying is that we kept the student activities board constant, even though this year the biggest went to about 3,400 students, in order to kind of save money for clubs who are not fiscally responsible with their budgets this year?
So it's kind of a little bit.
Well,
So
no, I mean, the follow-up though was, how much money, comfortably speaking, would there, if the Senate wanted to add to SAB, would there be to?
what? One more time. Let's
So
hear
let's say the Senate does decide that they want to reallocate some of the funds to SAB to put in like a big scale event. Now, you know this budget better than I do, or anyone here probably. So what amount will you find comfortably that would be okay with?
I mean, you're
Are you asking her for a recommendation?
Yes,
on
yes,
how
yes,
much
yes.
you
I'm
would-
asking her for her personal opinion on what much.
You know that she made this, right?
Right, that's what I'm asking her. What opinion should be that?
What, you have something to say?
if you want to add to it, I mean, you have $302,000 to work with there. That's your discretion, that's your vote. My recommendation, as already said this year, I recommend keeping it at 610,000. Keep in mind that with this, SAB does have more to work with than it did this year. SAB ran over 7,000 last year, so I didn't allow them to spend that 7,000 as per financial bylaws. So they were operating under, granted it's $7,610,000 budget. They were also working this year on their $10,000 contingency fund. So that's technically an extra 17,000 that they're able to flex with.
Proxy Akochia, before I move on to speakers list, that response. Would you like to know? Administrative Director Capobianco?
So 2 points. I think we shouldn't get caught up too much in debating until we actually move into debate. I think we should, so we should let the treasurer continue to present the budget. And I just did the math very quickly to answer your point. If we add up in full all of the clubs, all 24 clubs that now have 0 to 0.5, it gets to a total of about 170,000.
170?
Yes, 10.
Gotcha.
170.
Oh, 170. I got you.
Senator Polito?
Before we do start moving money around, I'd like to clarify, pursuing policy, we are required to keep so much money as unallocated, is that correct?
So we have 5% reserves that are already not included in here. So the 5% reserves are never ever seen. You should keep a certain amount unallocated because there are different budgets that go over.
Mystery.
So I mean, that's a great follow-up to go into, I guess. So the next step in the budget is ADP payroll processing. So you have other fees, insurance, things like that, that might change throughout the year. For prime example, sailing just got a new boat this year, and like as a result, our insurance goes went up. So it's good to have that unallocated funds balance to be able to pick up those unexpected costs throughout the year. So, all right. So, most of the states are pretty similar. Copy of pieces being used 500 for some of that budget. Fringe, just so that you guys are aware, Fringe is made in the benefits and everything that we do pay to our employees. That's 38% of what the total professional staff budget is. Legal fees, 28,000. That's pretty standard for the year. Salaries for professional staff, we did increase slightly. Part of this is because FSA does require us to provide certain other like professional development type of aspects. So that's to help cover that and make sure that we don't end up running on a deficit eventually. Salaries, so salaries I don't think have really been calculated properly in previous years. I wish I kept the other column that I have on here. So this year, salaries were listed as 110,000. The year before it was 119,000. So 2013, 2014 fiscal year, salaries did run over by about 17,000. Reason why salaries were decreased for this year is because class reps and their pay rate changed. However, there is an increase in payroll, and payroll does tend to roll over from year to year a bit because we legally have to pay people and can't hold people's pay. This is generally just an estimate that's lined up. And that's just because like I went through and calculated the maximum amount of budget that can be used is around 165,000 just in elected officials, but that's never actually used. We only work what they have to. So that brings it, that's a more accurate amount of what is generally used each year. And that includes all of any sort of like increases that were like the acting price, et cetera. Are there questions on that while we're there? No? Okay. Cool. And then everything else was maintained, except for Senate meetings. We just dropped $250, just as if you have to get that out of first. So, I mean, yeah, that's the whole budget.
So I guess now that we're going into discussion, there's a senator who could open up questions to the gallery as well as those that are here.
Just as before that, I just had a question. Did we want to allow the gallery to have its chance? Because I'm sure there's a lot of clubs here looking to advocate for on their own behalf.
That's really what I just said.
No, but I mean, were we gonna have that discussion before everything else?
Well, we think it
Rather than mishmashing it.
as opposed to just having the USG's, decision, it could necessarily be influenced by those around. So if you those in the gallery, if they have recommendations, you give them out
Yes.
before you make any decisions.
Yeah, I'd like to open up speaking rights to the gallery.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by proxy, Barad. Are there any objections?
I do have an objection, just for motion just to make sure that it's kind of visual and more fair in terms of like different clubs. You can put like either like a time limit maximum per individual. It's not.
Well, that's strictly by Robert's Rules of Order, everybody's 2 minute speaking of how that would be opposed. And then doing so, as opposed to clubs and orgs asking what that process was for Treasurer Michelle to reach to that number, which can be found out at a different date. Keep it strictly to recommendations or what you would like to see happen from the senators. So with that being said, there was an objection. We'll go to a roll call vote on the motion to grant speaking rights to the gallery.
Okay.
Senator Blazin Brown.
Yes.
Senator Barad.
Yes.
Senator Cheslak.
Yes.
Senator DiVirgilio.
Yes.
Senator Fang.
Yes.
Senator Ippolito.
Aye.
Senator Janino.
Aye.
Senator Jiang.
Yes.
Roxy Akochia.
Aye.
Senator Lachmanon.
Yes.
Senator Lambrosino.
Aye.
Senator Mealy.
Aye.
Senator Meow.
Abstain.
PPT Pomeroy.
Aye.
Roxy Barad.
Yes.
Senator Said.
Aye.
Senator Wilkinson.
Aye.
Senator Williams.
The vote of 17-0-1, the motion passes. So now we are in discussion. There has been no motion on the actual budget. Yes.
If you starting,
Excuse me?
are you starting to go to?
Yes, do you have something to say?
Okay. Yeah. Firstly, one thing was regarding what Proxy Hogan said about about the clubs being fiscally responsible and setting aside money for that. I believe what Treasurer Mishwad said was that there was also other clubs who were coming in from SSC budget. If I understood that correctly, that I think she meant new clubs that were not put on SSC for being fiscally responsible, and new clubs just starting out, and it wouldn't be fair to just characterize all of them as fiscally responsible.
I'm sorry, who are you addressing?
Exactly.
Comments you had made, just in general with that. I also had a question for Treasurer Michaud. The Senate meeting budget, what is that even for? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Ryan's not here to show us.
So it's salary?
What?
So it's salary or stipend?
A stipend, so,
Well, I don't operate on site. I have an invoice. I go through that like everybody else on the next month.
like a contract.
Okay, so he's contracted.
Services rendered.
I am a club, yeah.
Do you have 5 e-board members, 4 e-board members, and 1 other?
Oh, that was a joke.
Someone says.
Yes, Senator Rosenberg.
There's a lot of club members here. I'd encourage you guys, like, if you guys have stuff that you want to talk about, please talk about it. This is your moment. Please don't be shy. It's like,
Yes.
let's go.
I really recommend that you guys all I really recommend that you listen to Catherine about the SAB, because as much as selfishly I would love SAB to have like $1 million, I think that it's more beneficial to help out a lot of different clubs if they're gonna get the money spread out, than giving it to SAB, because I think a lot of times, like, SAB is really going to run another event, they're going to need a lot of money compared to a club that gave a lot of clubs who probably a little bit of money each. So I really hope that you would take Catherine's amount that she put in for SAB and keep it like that.
For clarification on one of the reasons why I kept the SAB constant and was more preferential towards increasing club budget is because, yes, we have the student activity fee for programming, we want to go on events, we want to drive student life, we want to get people involved, we want people like Stony Brook to keep coming back and maybe donate one day. But at the same time, we also want to build leadership, we want to build skills, and one of the great things you can put on your resume as a club leader is that I managed a $5,000 budget and the following year I was able to get us up to $10,000. To be able to say, I use a $5,000 budget to put on all of this. That's stuff that you can actually do to your job interview. It's not just something that, an event that you went to. So that's kind of where I saw the value coming into it. SAB, yes, you get the same stuff from it to a certain extent. I think it's a little bit of a smaller crowd a lot of times that are actually doing the hard work behind the scenes for it. But at the same time, like, each has its own benefits and cons.
Yes.
I'm from Stony Brook, Salem, so I just want to, I guess, addressing anybody that's willing to listen to this. Our budget will increase $2,472.08 according to sheet for this proposed increase. On October 14th of last year, this past October, you all approved our donation of Princess Ella. In that Senate meeting, we made it very clear that we needed that increase to go into our line budget because of the costs associated with it. With our increase here, we're going to have to lose our coach, lose our home yacht club, or lose Princess Ella. It's as simple as that. I'm not exaggerating at all. Our cost for Princess Ella range over $2,500. Our yacht club fees increased $1,000, and with paying our coach who works during the days, 3 days a week, we had 6 practices during the day. Catering, when his salary started, we had 8 members sitting in 303 at meetings. Now we have over 40, this whole year, over 80 people have sailed with us. And with this increase, well, it's very much appreciated. We're going to have to cut our club tremendously. Like I said, either losing our host yacht club, which means we're going to have to find a new place to sail, and for $4,000 a year, it's virtually impossible. we're losing our coach. We're never going to be able to find a guy who is able to take 3 days out of a week, plus every single weekend, traveling with our team to be able to coach us. Every single weekend. We asked for an increase of $31,000, just over $31,000. Well, I completely understand that that is a significant increase. That is our estimate of what we could run our club and cater to every single person on campus. We've made tremendous strides to increase our membership and cater to anybody that comes in to our meeting at 303. Everybody can sail with us, but with this budget, we're going to have, like I said, either losing our host yacht club, losing our coach, and turning away members. And it's as simple as that. And I have no idea, I would love to be able to say, put on my resume that I could, I managed a budget of $16,522, and now I'm able to manage a budget of $18,000. But instead, I have to tell the next ski board to get rid of our coach, get rid of our yacht club, and turn away people. It's as simple as that. I don't mean to be over dramatic. I'm just upset. And again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate the recommended increase as is. And thank you for hearing me.
Senator Brown?
So what would you estimate is the absolute minimum?
As I can
Just the coach and the,
just that. I mean,
just those three.
it would be for not including any of our adding more events to cater to more people. For just the boat, we estimated our asset rent was $3,900. We applied for a $10,000 increase for our coach because of the fact that he's working for us 3 days a week, all day Monday, all day Wednesday, all day Friday, in order to hold practices because we need the sunlight in order to practice, so he has to work during normal business hours, and he's traveling with us for the coach. So it's a $10,000 increase for our coach, $1,000 for our yacht club, and $3,900 for the Princess Ella, which we, again, was approved by this group here. And again, I appreciate very much for that. I just really don't want to have to tell the professor that donated it, sorry. I know you gave it to us, but now we have to get rid of it.
For the Princess Ella expenditures, what we did do, because we had put forth that, but like we put $4,000 for the yacht fees, and the city cut $3,000, so that's why that $1,000 was cut from the speaker expense. So if that, and I personally wasn't at your hearing, so if that's something that the superintendent recommended as like an actual cost. Two other costs that were also reduced because they weren't satisfied and it wasn't something that we had seen as actual expenditure in the past, were the two $500 warranties, which I believe, like, remembering now from the asset grant, which is a total of $4,000 or so, for expenditures behind the boat where it wasn't being up to that year to year. Those expenses were cut just because we hadn't seen them in the budget.
Let me just touch on a few things there. The increase has nothing to do with Princess Ella. We support Princess Ella for the mooring, and so that's just in Port Chip Harbor. We just put into our asset grant $100 to the town of Brookhaven to get a mooring permit, and so it's not associated with our the cost of Setauket Harbor, Setauket Yacht Club, sorry. And we store the boat at Setauket Harbor Marina, so it's a separate thing because of the fact it's more expensive to do it at the host yacht club, and so we saved money by not bringing this boat into the yacht club. And so the $500 mooring permits, the two of those for the mooring services rather, those we haven't been on our previous expenditures because we haven't had to use that. This boat was just donated to us, and we haven't put it in the water yet. So again, that's why it wasn't on our previous expenditures. I mean, we have. Just this past year, our donated goods are valued, including Princess Ella, is over $35,000 with the boat, our T-shirts, the event that are sponsored by outside funding, plus the over $1,000 each member has to pay in addition to the $50 in dues. I mean, we're very, very much self-funded. We go to 8 events on our own, and it's. So those events, aren't on our expenditure sheet because we're paying for it out of pocket, or this is a new donation to the team. If there are any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. I mean, I can give you an exact reason what every penny of our $31,060.41 increase was asked for. And it's again, that would be the highest number that we would ask in the future. Beyond that, our dues that we started collecting, in addition to the $1,000 that we ask our members to pay per year, that number is the highest we go to. Because as soon as we get, the more dues we bring in, the more events we can self-fund. And again, I understand, it's a very significant amount. But I mean, it's,
Thank you. Are there any other clubs or representatives here? Yes, can you just state your name and what club you're from?
My name is Cleopa. My group is representing the Science Fiction Forum. Our budget was cut 1,500. However, since we put in our budget application, we were evaluated our space. We are a functioning library on campus. We're actually the largest library fantasy, horror, and sci-fi on the East Coast. We're also a lounge space. We have a lot of very people listening. And the issue that we're having is that years ago or something, we were moved to a much smaller location. We went from 2 rooms to 1. And also a lot of our equipment, specifically our bookshelves, are extremely, extremely old and crumbling. They are literally collapsing. We were able to replace 5 of them through a asset grant this year. However, we were, timid about it. We should have really allocated for a much larger amount. And I know we're not allowed to do it for another 2 years. But it's just not safe the way that the shelves are moved over. So we are hoping to increase, again, very, very modestly to replace just the ones that are collapsing. So it's money for other clubs by 4,000. The 5 bookshelves that we had were $3,000, something like $3,000, and then was a $700 in shipping from the store. They were the best price that we were able to find. If we could just replace another few more, it would greatly increase the safety of the room, which is very small and is used very frequently. We have maybe 40 to 50 members coming per day. So we wish you would take this under consideration.
Thank you.
Before we move on to other clubs, I think it would be appropriate for the Senate that we suggest we will actually speak.
Yeah.
So I can, thank you, Anna and Avi, for talking, but I'd like to address, at least get feedback from the Senate for the clubs as they talk to us.
So,
Senator Blaise Brown.
in regard to sailing, your coach, is he requesting an extra $10,000? I'm just trying to understand, or are you guys trying to do right by him? Because either way, I understand.
it's both, really. I mean, right now, the hours that he works, he's not getting close to minimum wage. So we do want to do right by him. And also, there's no way that a guy who's working for us, he has others, he's a sailing professional. And so he works for us 3 days a week and out on the weekends. And so his other jobs are working for local high school clubs. There's no way he can stay with us reasonably for $6,000, which is his current salary. And he's also with the increase in Princess Ella. He's also in charge. He's basically our retainer, and it saves us incredibly amount of money. Incredible amount of money. Sorry. And so that goes to that would also go to the increase in the number of boats and the size of the boats that we have. That increase would help us offset those costs. He's paid for gas for our boats in the past because the previous board was not aware of the situation. He's paying for gas. He's paying for supplies for our boats. That we don't feel that it's right. We can ask somebody to come in, volunteer almost all of their week, work more than full time, and have them pay for gas and supplies for a team like that.
All right, so it's you were looking for a $10,000 increase for the coach, $4,000 to cover upgraded yacht fees, not yacht club fees.
The donation of the 52-foot boat, Princess Ella, that we voted on October 14th, and then $1,000 for the yacht club, which was an introductory rate at the beginning. We've been very lucky. We don't expect that to increase much more in the future, but right now there's an introductory rate because we were brand new. This was one that we had 2 boats, and we barely sailed. And so now that we have 6 practices a week at that location, $1,000 is quite a generous. $1,000 increase is pretty generous, in my opinion. Although I am biased, to be honest. So.
Sure.
I'd be more than happy to answer any questions. I have. We also have for the senators who were at our budget hearing, we submitted some extra explanations of some of these things. And so I can I have that here, we can put that up too, and go through all the explanations. I mean, like I said before, we get a lot of donations. We estimated around $35,000 in vote. We don't ask for money for awards or food that's donated to us by outside sources. And so and again, we also ask the members to spend over $1,000 per person, and we're still having to turn away people because we don't have enough events to go to.
As opposed to go through each one, just because for the sake of all the other clubs that are here, I just refer to the application that is here. If you have specific questions, I would ask them to refer to the club representative. Just because of the sheer number of clubs that we do have here, we're not going to try to stay here for fun.
So I guess as far as procedure, are we looking to make a motion to add it to our current budget proposal and keep adding things on as we go, or are they going to be informally discussed and then added all on mass at the end? Just trying to understand procedure.
I would recommend doing it one by one, because that will help you to know the cost as you're going through it.
Okay.
If you are going to make changes, that would probably make the process more sense.
Proxy Broad.
I'd like to make a motion of adding $15,000 to the Stony Brook Sound Club budget.
Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion fails.
I still would like to, yeah. So is there a position where you guys would be able to, and I know it's hard and I know your coach is contributing a lot, and we end up in a tough position where everybody has a lot of these positions and we can't give everybody exactly what they sometimes need and sometimes want. Because it's not fair to give drastic increase to one club and then deny it to some of the other ones, even if they are successfully operating. I think a lot of us here are recognizing you guys are really in a bind though with the position you're in. So I kind of want to hear more senators' discussion and feedback on this though.
Senator Conroy.
Just to give a little bit, I was actually the budget committee senator at the hearing.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, it was a fantastic hearing. Came in looking great. They had the binders, all that kind of stuff. Really, it was a fantastic hearing. It was done very well. Honestly, I would say it was a model hearing for what the club should want to do for that. That's really the sad standard that all clubs should be put at. So on the one hand, I do say that they are here prepared. They are, they did really show a lot of need and all this kind of stuff for it. Just to play devil's advocate for that, I do also agree though that, as much as I would love to see all clubs be able to function at the full amount and all that kind of stuff, they would be able to really be able to do what they want to do. At times there's only so much we can do to really bring a club up, either to the full amount that they can, right off the bat, or, make these kind of giant amount increases. So, it's something to consider. On the one hand, like I said, it would be great to see, but is it also right, as Nathan had said, to really give so much to this one club as opposed to others? So.
Senator Brown.
Well, I think your biggest concerns come from the contracted services tax, and we want to look through that.
She's asking the scope of
contracted services tax. So I think this is the area where you guys have the plans.
That's the stuff.
So correct me,
Yes.
correct me if I'm wrong, you guys currently have $6,000 set aside to pay your coach?
Correct.
And that's for the year.
Do you want to speak for a minute?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would it, instead of 10, and if this is in trying to make this something that is more passable, instead of 10 for the coach, would 7 be acceptable? Would that be something that is sufficient? I know it's probably not what you guys are looking for, but is a $7,000 increase to that specific portion? I mean, I'm just talking about the 7 out of 10 for the coach.
Yes, I believe so. Again, we have to come with negotiation with our coach. But I am almost 100% confident that that would be an increase that could be agreed upon with our coach, and we'd be able to retain our coach for that. Although again, that's not a certainty.
Just for clarification, is your coach threatening to leave? just because of lack of funds? That's what, like the connotations that you just said was.
Well, that's one of the issues, is that because he's been with us for, I believe, at least 4 years, and that is a big concern that we have. Although we haven't come to that conclusion with him directly, I am confident that if we do not give him a reasonable increase, that we will not have an issue.
In light of Senator Blazen Brown's comment and P.C. Pomeroy's, I'm going to move to increase the Sailing Club by $10,000 from unappropriated funds.
Is there a second? I second that. Second by Senator Kavanaugh. We will now be moving into debate on the motion passes.
I was like,
Co-chair?
so you I'm just gonna say that I know there's a lot of SSC clubs who don't pay the coaches. I know there's 2 clubs that don't pay the coaches at all, and I understand that you want to do right by your coach, and I get it. But there's other clubs like men's hockey pays all the coach $3,000 for the year. Or how much do they pay? $6,000. Right. And now my other question is your coach under the impression that he's going to get an increase this year?
The impression is yes. I mean, that I would argue that that's the impression because yeah. I don't know how to answer that.
I mean, no. I mean, it's blunt as it is. Like, if he's under the impression he's getting paid without having a budget beforehand, I don't know how responsible it was to do.
We have not guaranteed him anything. My exact wording is that I will try my best, and that was my only wording because I understand that this is a process, and there are, but there's still people that decide this, not me. I mean, our request was what be ideal for us, but I understand it is a process. Nothing was guaranteed to him, and he does not know that I'm sitting here arguing this to you right now.
Senator Blazen Brown.
To gain insight into their operations, those were at the budget committee. The budget hearing there, they had a very good hearing. They seem to have run fiscally responsible throughout the year.
Yeah, as long as if you actually have.
Very good. Okay.
If you want to,
I can
pass that around.
I can bring it up. I mean, I can put it up on the board. If I can email it to someone, that I can use it. Just send it to them.
Is there money somewhere? Was there a problem?
Yeah, the black binder of the company.
Is there any more debate, really?
Well, volleyball innocent situation, I was there. You guys gave an amazing presentation. I loved it so much. Your clubs are, struggling now. But it's hard to give you guys like the money that you're asking for extra when some clubs don't even have $5,000 budgets. So you're almost basically giving like 3 different clubs a budget with that money that you're not getting. Also, some clubs got knocked out, $50,000, and while there's the fall revisions and stuff like that, we do have to take that into consideration. And if we make special cases for your club, we have to make some consideration for all clubs.
I was just going to follow up with what I was saying before, and for the sake of, if you guys want to see, hopefully totally grabbing supplemental document they have.
Senator Blazen Brown, I had to speak.
If I may just to counter that point, there's also the fact that, obviously, if someone's using the funds that have been allocated to them in an effective manner, there's reason for them to have a higher budget. And also, we cater to fulfilling their mission statement. And some mission statements, it's not always fair, and we always have to gauge it with a good deal of thought, but some mission statements do require a larger amount of funds in order to fulfill. That's not saying that should be the moon, but.
I think all of us every day it's like 0 and like 50%. But when you see a club do something really good, it's like, oh, like what are we going to increase them by? So I'm really impressed by what they're saying. Like out of all my years in USG, I'm like glad that they came, they put their case. I would be comfortable giving them a pretty decent increase because they've shown consistently that they've done really well. I think they just have to consider that. Like if you're going to constantly cut clubs so much when they do something wrong, then why not reward a club for doing something really good and they actually need the money? And I'm not saying give them everything, but I definitely think that if they're saying like their case is pretty strong to me, and if they did a really good budget hearing and they have the binder, and I know that when I was in USG one day, I actually happened to just see it, and I was really impressed by it too. So that, just keep that in mind.
There's more to it.
And I think more clubs, I think more clubs would probably be really good if they saw like all this stuff, they would probably be more inclined and encouraged to follow this model, that you'll be rewarded most likely if you do something like this and you can show need.
Now, other senators that are kind of ambivalent about this, is there a certain section that you want to see from their budget application? Yes.
Yes.
External income. You got external income.
You increase the budget of the average club.
If I can make a comment on our external income, or the binder explains more in detail, we had basically choose from our end, with the documents, we give the senators.
I mean, they need the money to pay for it. They need the money to pay for the
For external income. And so all that's found, in the binder on the.
That's why I'm saying, what if we just give you the
One thing we did do with external revenues is we tried to encourage clubs to try and fundraise and find alternative sources of funding. USG is not designed to be a sole source of funding, so one thing we did was when clubs showed real exactly how much income they had coming in, or at least estimates on at least parts of it, or what they were able to consistently expect. We didn't dock money based off of that. We still tried to give them the bare minimum to function and enabled them to use the funds that they work hard to attain on the things that they see as really bringing their club to the next level. And what we did to try and encourage other clubs to do it was anyone who didn't feel it could fundraise, we subtracted $200.
Excuse me, we're still on Senator Polito's motion. Yes.
I think
Senator Blaise Brown.
one of the other things we take into consideration, and the reason why increases happen at a slow rate, is because e-boards fluctuate, leadership fluctuates within groups. And it can be difficult to assign a large sum at one moment if in following years it's not going to be consistent. I don't know, I think that's something to take into consideration.
PPT Power.
I'm just gonna go really second that, because I know a lot of times it does tend to be a little bit of a precedent in the USG that, clubs as well increase, which certainly isn't a bad thing. But, there are some times where, at least in my opinion, I've seen that certain clubs have gotten to almost such a high point out of just that over the years that, it may not always be an actual, representation of what they do need versus just what they've been getting in the past years. That slow increase. Along with saying that, another idea behind the slow increase at that point is that, with all the new clubs coming in from SSC, with, all these different kind of things, like we are, expanding, we're getting more and more clubs every single year, but that's going to be more funding that will be eventually, looked at to pay out.
I think that you guys should get at least some sort of increase to account for the business of it. I think a $2,000 compromise might be a good place to start. It's tough for the coaches, understand where you're coming from, we talk to and stuff. But one other thing to keep in mind is that if we were to increase one budget by about $10,000, that's normally $10,000 that we can put into another club's budget. So yes, while clubs are going to be for revisions, are only able to get 50% of whatever they have this year as a maximum. The year after, they're probably going to want to go back up to their full functioning amount. So if you guys go through and fully increase every club that's here by $50,000 and do something $302,000 entirely for just extreme circumstances, next year that's going to make it that much tougher years because a lot more clubs having to go and increases. And it's going to be a broader fluctuation that makes it difficult from a transition type of standpoint to be able to plan out what your budget is more likely going to be.
Senator Polito.
Clubs who were cut this year may want to go back to what they fully were in the year following fall revision. Doesn't mean they deserve it either. Okay. And again, I'm going to reiterate what Mr. Pomeroy says. This is a club that came in very well prepared, very well informed about their club, very well presenting their budget. And I think it's fair to give that, to at least meet them more than halfway. I don't think that the 50,000 should be the first motion. I think that we're starting with 10. I think that's a good way to sort of compromise between us and them. especially considering that the fees that were encouraged, which may not be existed if not for the fact that we accepted the donation on their behalf.
Just to ask the senators about the budget hearing, because you guys brought up the, if they were going to be responsible in future years, we could have some, like, insight as to the work conditions. Does any of you guys talk about that?
I mean, I don't know exactly what they do, but I mean, I can tell you they had a lot of members there that hired in the long term for that. I mean, I don't remember the exact details, we saw a lot of clubs, I don't remember exactly. But you want to speak to it?
I just want to point out, right now, our next USG board is here. We brought them here because we know that this is important. We had elections months earlier. We had elections on the 6th in order to give our new board time to get accustomed to campus fund. When the four of us, the current board, came in, we weren't very satisfied with our transition, so we did everything that we could starting day one to make sure that our club knows what's required of everybody. We have our current responsibilities up on a Google form or Google Docs where our whole club can see it. And so before we had our elections, everybody on our club, and even, I don't know if they just found the link randomly, could see what the four e-board members did this year and what they'd be expected to do next year. And so by the time elections came around, everybody knew what was going on. We had, I believe, 8 people run for our position, and our 4 e-board members next year are here. And they were, our whole team was at the budget hearing. Everybody walked by after. We've done everything that we can, outside of the 4 of us staying around next year, to be prepared for next year.
This is obviously nothing against Tennessee. This is mostly playing double acting against Lloyd. Basically, what you're saying is, they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. We're going to give them $10,000 for it, and it's kind of like we don't have the money or budget to set this kind of precedent to get them such an increase when, yes, they're impressive, but they're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. So it's like if every club does this, it's not fair that we give them $10,000 and then we don't have the money to fund every club to do something.
If I may, yes. So, I'm sorry, with what Mallory said, that a club that does do well isn't necessarily recognized. And we're not talking about clubs that are doing the bare minimum, we're doing clubs that are going above and beyond.
Well, yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, if we give them $10,000 for this, and the next year we have 15 clubs that do exactly just as well as Salem can do, we don't have money to fund that sort of person that we're setting right now.
One thing we did on budget was we tried to really look at inputs and outputs. So we tried to look at, if we're putting this much money into something, what is the student body getting out of it? And that might be another question.
If I also just to play devil's advocate again, I agree that we can do it and all this kind of stuff. If a club does well, we should be rewarded for it. But in that same token, it was a fantastic hearing. But if you ask me, it's also the kind of thing that I would argue that every club should be trying to go up to that standard. That it was good, but in another way also relative. If you really care about your club, if you really want to see your club do well, and I would say that every club should come in, really disinform this, much documentation, all this kind of stuff. So,
I'm talking to Coach.
I'm just going to point out that if we're treating all these budgets as unbiased as possible, the KPI was there for a reason. I know the budget committee centers where it's creating every club to a minimum, and then the club will get back based on the KPIs. Correct me, that's the way the KPI would work.
That was a separate stuff, but.
So what do we know? So if we are just gonna is a case basis, and we need to just redo the whole budget hearings again, and not take into account the KPIs for the system that we're doing put in place for the treasurer and the budget committee center came up with this budget.
Although I agree that you may need the money to fund your coach, this could open the floodgates for a lot of other clubs a lot of other sports clubs that would request significant funding for their coaches, especially if they want to match what you guys are looking to do. Although I respect everything that you've done to build your club and to grow it, I just don't think it's reasonable to request that sort of funding for your coach and then open the doors for every other sports club to do the same. We don't have the money for that.
If you were to get this money, would it also enable more members to be able to increase our percentage? I just want to also remind you guys, like, I don't necessarily agree with your comments to coach, but like, you guys setting a precedent or like, you I mean, some of you, but I set precedents as a Senate and you guys came and did something completely different. So every year, there's new clubs setting new precedents and doing a lot of different things. So don't really necessarily think about it like in the what you're setting, because I would just argue that like next year someone can come in. So I'm never normally for clubs if you know my history, and I like really think, like I'm being honest, but I really do think like we should be giving them some sort of increase based on everything. Like Wade said, they went above and beyond. Like this is not the bare minimum that they can do, and I do think that they deserve it.
Senator Blake Brown.
I think we're having a really good debate, but I think we need to get to the point where we call the question because there are a lot of clubs in this room. We've got a lot of budgets to go through. And I think we've talked through a lot of the points on this.
We see what the KPIs for.
It is an index to measure. I do not know the interest. I would ask. Kat, what does KPI stand for, the initials?
Key performance index.
Key performance index. Kat's proficiency index?
Senator Blake Brown, did you have a motion to call the question? Oh, like to come.
I did not. It was a suggestion that we get close to it. But I'm about to call the question after we look at this KPI. In case you wanted to know what was about to happen.
You can sit here.
I can see my own. My own action.
All right, so to address the KPIs, because I know that there's not a lot of concern regarding those. What we were trying to do this year was to try and at least start over the course of the year. That way you don't get stuck just, you know, you have a bad day in your budget hearing, so you lose your budget, or someone comes in and they know how to like guess really well, so they get better budget even if you do more stuff. So this was kind of a way to kind of keep things more even, see what you actually do all the time and what you're consistent at. That said, it is the first year it's being done. It could be a lot better. It'll be developed over time, so it's something to kind of take a grain of salt. That's why one of the reasons why it wasn't like that was the third step in determining budgets. It was like the add-on, it was like the more basic clubs get. So a lot of the scores, what we did was we had positive points and negative points. So some of the positive points would be to go to open forums, because that shows drive, involvement, you're more likely to have better transitions if you're involved in USG, you're getting connected, and you're getting the updates that you need to get all the time. And then other things were like the club leadership quizzes at the beginning of the year. Granted, I gave you guys all the answers right beforehand, but you'd be surprised there was still a couple like errors going on over it. So like just like showing that you're interactive and that you're trying and that you're like learning. Those were things that we were trying to get. It is tough to keep track of every single thing. Some of the negatives and positives were like how many vouchers did you submit on time, how many were not on time. And the KPI score that we ended up using was a sum instead of a ratio.
I was just gonna put the speaker.
So like
what?
I was gonna put in your speakers list on the start.
So that was the idea behind the KPIs. It was just used to try and be like some sort of measure for additional funding for those actually that everybody wants.
Just for clarification, what was the highest KPI score that was?
25 is like, it varies. So like, it's tough because every club has a different level of involvement. But if you're doing more things, you're more likely to have to cram some voucher in on time. Like, but at the same time, you're more likely to have more vouchers going for you. But like, one of the other measurements, you want to say okay. Like, 35 is like one of the, not highest, but one of the higher.
How about the
Senator
average?
Blake Brown?
I called the question.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Senator Polito. We'll move straight to a vote, a standing vote on the motion to end debate. Standing vote, all those in favor of end debate, please stand. you guys can see. Vote of 16-0, the motion passes. That way we move straight on a vote on the motion by Senator Hill. Motion. I believe we remove $10,000 from unallocated funds to the sailing club budget.
Yeah, move to increase the budget by $10,000 from the unallocated funds.
So all those in favor of moving $10,000 from the unallocated funds? Is it standing vote is fine with everybody? There's some for zone. So all those in favor of moving $10,000 from unallocated funds to the Salem Club's budget to stand? The vote of 7 to 11 to 0, the motion fails. Senator Bladen Brown.
I would like to move to increase the funding by $5,000.
Second by Senator Williams. Is there any debate?
May I just add a comment?
Yes.
This is just, there are fees that you guys need to operate your boat and to operate like your membership. And we recognize those, but I do not think that we could allocate $15,000 the entire total. And that's the pretense of this motion.
At the same time, once you guys are granted a budget, you guys can choose to do the less competition and pay your coach more as well. So if you guys want to, I know it's a sacrifice, but if you really feel that adamant you have to pay your coach more, you can self-make the sacrifice and you want to pay him the more to come over and still coach you guys.
Yes.
Captain, what was your recommendation before? For this logo?
For the gold loan, about 2,000, only because they got the 2,000 increase. That said, that they also, the reason why they were given the increase, especially was because they've shown that demonstrated that they're more active than they used to be. They've been gaining membership, they need funding for the extra people. 5,000 is.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. On the motion to increase the sailing club, you said moving from unallocated funds, correct?
Yes.
On the motion to move $5,000 from unallocated funds to the sailing club budget, all those in favor, please stand. The vote of, you guys can see. The vote of 13-5-0, the motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Just an equivalent nature, I would ask that you guys address the point brought up by the science fiction forum. I can't see. Yes.
If I may make an addendum to, on terms where the secretary, when they make an addendum to what Anya said, I want to emphasize that getting these shelves is not just safety, though it is that. There's some parts of those stacks that I don't feel too safe going down because I'm pretty sure something's going to fall in my head. It's also an issue of space. Some of the shelves are in such bad condition, we can't put books on them. We removed, once upon a time we had 2 rooms, we now have 1. So we are already pressed for space. We need money to allocate, not just for new stacks, but for other ways to improve our storage. We don't have the ability to keep our stuff anymore. We need money for, we got binders to get our DVD collection this past year. I think we do a couple more of those.
We're set on binders.
We're set on binders, but we definitely, we need more shelves, because we at least need to be able to use the shelves that we have, if nothing else. So it's an issue of space as well as safety, and it is really a pressing issue.
Thank you. Senator Boyd Brown.
I had a question. Do you have a rough estimate of what the average KPI was?
I don't have this stuff.
That's, that'd be cool. If it's not,
There's a lot of different factors that go into outcomes, just besides just somebody got conviction and not time compared to how many they also have to take into account the prevalence that they have on campus, the types of programs they have, how much outreach they really generate, how well their e-board functions.
fair enough then.
Senator Williams, could you give me an estimate of how much the bookkeeping costs?
That's a little bit difficult because each bookcase the site sells them in separate pieces, but each bookcase was about like a little bit less than 1,000. I think it came out to 700 per bookcase. That's not how it should be.
Yep. Yes, sir.
Explain why you lost the other room. How you get it?
So that was no fault of our own. We used to be in Harriman. They decided to add space for graduate student offices. So they just took it. They just like moved us.
After I was there budgeting center, we didn't ask for the cases in the budget.
Because we thought we were fine. We didn't consider that a pressing matter. And it's a very gradual kind of slope that happens with these bookcases. They are steel. When we discovered the original bookcases, nobody had noticed them. It's just all of a sudden everything kind of dominoes.
And then a follow-up question. You received an essay last semester where the subject fixed your bookcases. What happened with all of that stuff?
Oh, he didn't fix our bookcases. He replaced bookcases that he fixed over.
So the one that you missed off.
Yes. We weren't entirely sure how to do these asset grants. We had never done them before, and we didn't really have a prior report. We had initially wanted to purchase a tank. We wanted to replace a lot because these bookcases are 40. I don't know how old. A lot of them are as old as our club, which is 46 now. So some of them are 40 years old, it's older. Originally a lot of them were donated. But we just felt uncomfortable doing that. We really should have allocated more.
And then where is your club?
Our club is in 0470 Union.
So what about when we
We would love to know what happens. People all over the valley would love to know what happens. If anyone has any idea.
Where am I gonna get my haircut?
In the room when they begin closes, a lot of our problems will be solved.
Senator Williams, cool. So I don't know what's gonna happen when the union closes, but one thing that could be done is you could move the money around in your budget so that you could fundraise part of the money for the bookcase and then subsidize the rest of the cost. So it's still possible for you to get the bookcase. You just have to do it with the budget and with the tax benefits.
We are trying to do that. The $4,000 is like maybe there's the entire project of replacing the ones that are broken is something like over 2,000. But we're just trying to be extremely minimal with what we're requesting. I don't feel like we will be able to fundraise unless we receive assistance from how to counter the fundraise. Bake sales only do so much. We are attempting to. We applied for a fundraiser at the end of this month. If we can, we're going to get this maybe in to sell a lot of our book stuff, so we can, have more space for new books. I don't really see us getting the fundraising we need to solve this issue before it becomes a severe safety issue.
In addition to that, we do run several events that are relatively big. They tend to be successful unless we have a flood in them. But we do run several events, and we've also introduced, we are having a field trip that we've introduced, and it's actually been really popular. We have a wait list for it. So we are trying to expand our club in that we want to invite more members, that word, members, do more events, and also have our space be safe to be in. Because we can't function as a library if people are too scared to go in the stacks because of Facebook fall on their heads.
Senator Reyes Brown?
Yeah.
Senator Reyes?
And the breaking which is happening between the budget hearings.
It's not.
It's a very dry.
Yeah, they kind of, when we got in the new, it's such a gradual thing that, it's a very closed space that we have down there, so it's hard to notice until you're actually in the middle of the stacks. The ones that we want to replace now, we didn't really see how bad they were until we were doing our shift. We had to move, these shelves are a little bit of a different size, so we had to move a lot of stuff around. And as we did, we found that we had at least one shelf that it was like concave, and noticed that next to our shiny new shelves, which are straight and strong and beautiful to see,
And propping up
propping up the ones that are currently sloping, we noticed that we had several that were looking kind of precarious, which next to the other shelves that were really broken down and that we replaced. The ones that are currently starting to go looked normal, because that's how bad the old ones were.
PPT Holloway. So I know another thing that we really look into a lot when we're doing all these applications, on budgeting and such, is that, similar to the fundraising, that we try to see ourselves as not your only source of funding. So I know considering university, really does like to address safety concerns. I think that if you haven't talked to the university about it.
Our building manager seems to have vanished, or at least he hasn't replied to a couple of my emails the past few months, or he sort of replies. What we've done in the past is we have been on the lookout for a place like, for example, the philosophy library closed. So we went and we got all the equipment, we got the property control, and we replaced a lot of them. Unfortunately, not enough. So we are looking for resources on how to do this without having to spend a dime, but we've run out of them.
Senator Blaise Brown?
Have you considered contacting the library? I mean, it's like to possibly loan some of your books temporarily if you guys don't have the infrastructure for it. I know that can be tough because I'm sure there's something that's very important to you guys, but
It's not so much that it's important to us, it's more important to our constituents. We've had people, we've had an issue this year because we have, I don't know how many books, 500 books that are in storage. People constantly come in and they're like, oh, the book that I want to take out is here. It's not so much to us, it's for the general community. We don't just serve, we serve everybody. We serve staff, people from the city come in and get books. We just really want to have them accessible because we are a library, the entire, quarter of the alphabet is missing.
Yes.
Often.
Well, thanks. I do have questions on it, consistent in their judgment. So, if you're gonna ask for one public fundraise, you should ask for the other ones to be the same. That said, I did want to touch on a couple points. So, if you have items that are purchased with USG funds, you do need to go through the cover asset before selling anything like that, making sure that you're
I went on books, I've already talked to someone in the office.
Okay, make sure you have books. Okay. And then just to you're so safe with it. But also if it's something like safety, because I don't know what you guys really want to be just a shelf. I mean that's up to you guys, but to address the storage issues, the union is going to be coming down, so you do have to be careful about what the money, what the assets are placed in there, because at some point we're going to have to find a place to store it. There are a couple different plans being worked out with the student's office, but there isn't anything 100% confirmed yet. That says there's not enough storage in the stack for everything we need. And restoring the books to the library.
Could be a what?
Senator Lambert,
Just to clarify, you said this is the biggest question of its kind on the East Coast.
Yep, free Monday. To clarify, I think MIT has a bigger one, but we got to pay to be part of them. But yeah, they're the biggest free Monday.
This is something I feel like we should be very proud of and that we should support, being this is one of its kind, basically, like on the East Coast. To have it like in the position that it is, I think is really embarrassing for us. So I feel like we should give them the funds in order to be able to do this. So I'd like to motion to give Science Fiction Forum $5,000 from unallocated funds.
Okay, is there a second? Seeing none, the motion fails.
If
You have a.
well,
I say your name.
Enter base. I'm also part of the science fiction forum as well as SABCs. On top of the fact that we have a very big concern with the safety of our shelves, we run very large events that cater to a very large portion of the university. About 2 weeks ago, we had a joint collaboration with the LGBTA in our masquerade ball, which went really well, and we had a very large turnout. And in October, we have a whole week of events dedicated to Halloween. So, any kind of increase to that would also be very helpful, especially since we do cater to a very large community, and not just undergraduates, but also anyone in the community as well. Thank you.
I'm sorry, and actually this was a request for you. What were you requesting again for the proper shelving? Yeah.
They would be following the same model that we had allocated for. They are ST bookshelves that are 76 inches tall and 5,000.
No, the cost.
The cost. Oh, the cost was about 4,000. While 4,000 increase on what we have currently allocated for the 15 to 16 year, and we would also be using some of our own funds that are currently there. So it's probably about 5K.
Senator Polito?
I move to appropriate $4,000 from unallocated funds to the Science Fiction Forum.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Lambert. Is there any debate? Seeing none, we'll go to a standing vote on the motion. Whatever you're ready for. All those in favor of moving $4,000 from unallocated funds to the Science Fiction Forum's budget, please stand now. Please stand, please. With a vote of 13 to 0, the motion fails.
If you don't want to be on camera, don't be
Moving on, the budget as a whole has still not been approved. Still discussing it.
I make a motion to move $2,000 from unallocated funds to Science Fiction Forum.
Seconded by Senator Dominal. Is there any debate? Is there any debate? No, they're not. Seeing none, yes, speak to Donald.
I can definitely understand the lighting issues, like we're looking at the manual, we're looking to fix a lot of these problems. So in that same token, examine every single issue that comes up, we're just gonna slowly fail a vote until we get to an amount that every single person agrees on. You know, like, there's a reason why we're debating for this. If the other motion says no, then, you know, maybe that isn't the statement.
Senator Roth?
Also, it wasn't allocated for in their budget, and the argument that they have a presence on campus isn't really valid to me because most clubs that get funding here have a huge presence on campus. So like any club could come here and argue, hey, we have a great thing on campus, we do a lot of things for a lot of people. That doesn't mean they should get $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 extra for something they didn't even ask for.
Senator Yoshino?
Pass.
Senator Williams?
And if the bookcase does cost, like say, $4,000, it still leaves them a significant amount of money to put on events. So they still will have funding to do events.
even if we use their current budget to get them. So that's something I want to know.
Senator Brown.
And I'm very troubled by what happened with their asset grant, because if it had been done properly, then they could have applied for an asset grant this year for their coaching.
Is there no more debate? Seeing none, we'll move to a standing vote on the motion to move $2,000 from unallocated funds to the science fiction forms budget. All those in favor, please stand now. With a vote of 7, 11, 0, the motion fails. Mallory?
So I think that we could possibly apply to property control, because at Pedro, if you need to see something, you want to do that too, saying that you heard it from me, that possibly you can apply for furniture through them, for the unions, that's an option, to go through the university too. I don't know if you tried.
Thank you. So we're on 9, about 9:06. And it's in my opinion that you senators should give every vote here equal opportunity to speak. We still have the rest of the budget to pass and the USG Constitution. So I'll leave it up to you, but the Senate meeting will automatically end at 9:30. If the senator would like to make a motion to extend that anytime now. PT Conroy, I move to extend the anytime to 9 o'clock. Second. Are there any objections to that? Seeing none, the motion passes. Moving on, is there anybody else from the gallery? Yes.
Society, with my board members for next year. The Environmental Conservation Society. We were budgeted $7,000 budget. We were for $3,800 approximately. I'm not sure where that money didn't go. We're requesting an additional $1,500, which will be applied to contracts with industry professionals for workshops and professional development for our members, as well as the extended community. Those workshops will be in engineering, business, and scientific disciplines. And again, that's something we allocated in the contract that we the trips. I guess, unfortunately, that's questions.
Could I receive some input from whoever did that budget hearing? Is there someone here who did that?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yes.
So the money that was cut from your budget procedure was also like the actual committed spending. You were granted everything for professionals already.
Right. So the current budget that we have, about $53 was to operate how we were exactly this year. During this year, we have done a lot of groundwork to recruit new professionals and new opportunities that we are trying to pass along to the student body. These opportunities are workshops which cost money and speakers that are of high level at large institutions such as Bayer, Healthcare, Underwriter Laboratories, Covidian, just to name a few that we've been working very hard to try to recruit to bring into Stony Brook and share those resources. So that's really what we're trying to develop, and we can't do that with the current timeline that we have.
Senator Williams?
So your question is on the reference to the workshop? Is that correct? Yeah. So in your budget application, in terms of like contracted services, just to give you an idea, you didn't really ask for that.
We asked
for 1,250. Correct?
We need to drive a good application for some of the workshops we might do in USG. So that was combined with the trips.
And off-campus trips?
Off-campus trips, yeah. So in total it was 1,250 for the contracted services as well as dollars for application services plus the awards are the international BMS chapter meeting.
In terms of your application and what I see here, right? What we allocated for you can cover all that. The only thing really based on your application that's not on there are gifts and awards, apparel, and some costs for food. So in terms, yeah. So in terms of like, the composition of that, the stuff you listed in your application is what you got.
Okay, so again, I'm kind of speaking, I didn't want to.
You want to see this?
No, he's talking about what was allocated.
What was the question on that project that was submitted? Well, basically, what was the prior year, $3,080, was functioning for how we were operating currently. So the things that we have been doing include food, include gifts and awards for speakers that do not ask for contract payments. Those will continue to happen. So the food that we have is to promote a professional atmosphere, to bring in the people who are not asking for money. They're donating their time, they're donating their evenings. We want to feed them, because if we don't feed them, they will not come back to give us free speeches and free workshops. We want to grow and continue to grow and recruit more people who we have to pay.
Yeah, I get that.
Right.
But in terms of things like an application, in terms of like talks and bringing people here, funds for that volume and allocated. The only thing that really is not on your application is in the debt is costs for food. So in terms of like bringing people here, you can do that. In terms of like if you want to bring serve food for them, you can fundraise money for that.
Proxy, I quote you.
Just so you're clear on the budget transfer, every club member, I mean, the senators who were in the budget committee, your club did not directly correlate specifically to your mission statement to supply food or have clothing at these events. It was cut off, and you could still choose to to have food at these events. You just have to take it from somewhere else. So you could cancel one of those trips, or you could like spend less money or something else and provide the food. But like the argument that Senator Williams is making is that what you ask to provide strictly to your mission statement and what your club is about was granted to you. The food is nice for an event, but it's not necessary for the event to function. And I think that's what what we're getting at.
I've been on the record actually with that point in previous Senate meetings or whatever this stuff is called. Do you remember the specific meeting that was?
Yeah, so biological engineering, they came to the budget meeting to discuss the financial bylaws. They were having a problem this year where they wanted to spend money more than the limit of 10 events per year. They discussed with myself as well as other senators for academic clubs. Sometimes it's a little bit different for how food is. So we were allocated money for your months, just not the thousands or so dollars for it. Like, so what a lot of times happens in those academic settings is like coffee and tea or cookies or something like that. So what is currently in the budget application is allocations based off what was spent this year for those sorts of things. But I would also like to note the total amount of money requested by clubs was over $1,356,000. So if we allocated everything that every club asked for or wanted, we'd be over budget by over $550,000. So that's one of the reasons why a lot of those cuts come from, because we really have to make sure that we're operating like. There's $302,000 sitting there, but that's also that what the other people do.
So I appreciate the fact that all the money requested cannot be approved. That's why I'm not requesting for all of the additional money that we requested. There are things that we would love to do. We understand we cannot do next year. Hopefully the following year we will be able to increase further. However, in order to do these new events that we are planning, these new professional development opportunities, we need $1,500 more than we spent this year. That is continuing operating the way that we have been operating, in addition to bringing in these new 5-level events.
Why are you interested in the application?
I thought it was, the food was basically the same amount we spent last year. The same one we got last year. Basically just the drug test and give a discount on apparel.
So you want to bring people here, and that's something that we consider contract with, correct?
Yeah. All right. So
$4,250. So I don't see where the extra 1,500 is coming from. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, and you tell me how much you requested for
food you requested 3,950, right? And as Kat said, for those professional environments, it's like, you know, a little coffee, cookies, some appetizers. Whereas we were trying to bring, well, you don't really say in your application. Okay, I don't have that with me right now. But I don't think a couple of cookies and a little bit of coffee would cost.
We have this situation for every event that we booked this year, which comes to the sun. That is this. We actually had one additional event, which was $1 event. That's new, and that was based on the receipts for the event that was previously posted. So basically what we do, which has been successful, we've been continuing to bring the contacts that we have from Long Island, is host them for dinner and formal networking day.
So now we're talking about food, and we're not talking about contracted services.
Right.
So now I don't see where the argument is.
Well, okay, again, I was not aware of where things were cut. I could have started with the food argument if I knew that that's where it was cut. Ultimately, in order for us to bring in these new events, we need $1,500, in addition to what we had from last year. We spent the money last year on the food events. We have things to document how those events went. And again, the professionals that we bring, the academic, high-level people that we bring in from the hospitals, they have come to expect that they don't just come for complete free. Those are the ones that are not contracted, the relationships that we have worked with in the past. They come, we provide dinner to them as a response to them giving their time and their evening. So again, we feel we've been arguing this for about this past year, that the food for our club is something that we need in order to function at the level that we're currently functioning.
Yes.
I think everybody gets your point that you want to provide food for these events, but I think the point needs to be made across that the budget committee felt that you did not need to provide dinner for these people. That I guess coffee and tea and sort of like food things was what they felt was what you should have for these events. So I think that's where, like, I don't know if you're like that point is getting across that they're not saying not to have food. They're just saying what they feel is appropriate food to the amount of money to give them to provide that food for those events.
And I think in order to be fair across the board, these types of food cuts were made to every club, and it does not directly correlate to a mission statement. Well, I understand it is helpful and it is nice, and you want to grow at a certain level. Every club really that's functioning well wants to grow at a very high level, and unfortunately we need to moderate that for everybody in order to be fair. So I don't think this is a situation, unlike some of the other ones where it was, we're going to lose some of our assets and we have a physical risk in case. I don't think this is one of those situations that requires.
I would just keep in mind, this is nothing permanent. Like, this wasn't just passed off on.
Yes.
And also after the Senate.
You can't apply us less with on the budget.
And after this process, to reach out to Federal and find out specifically the budget for what reason. I just don't want this whole thing to digress. Although your point is that this is essential for your function, that's why I'm allowing you to continue. As President General, no, I just don't want it to digress into one of this function.
I appreciate that, and I do only have one more point, and then I do want to move on to other points.
Absolutely.
You mentioned that this is not a physical asset. We are not a physical asset type of organization. We're an organization with engineers and science, mostly science majors. It is open to everyone, including business and the arts. However, we don't have physical assets. Our assets are the people that we bring in and the types of professional companies that we can recruit to promote on campus. So our physical assets are not physical; they're intellectual assets.
And
so,
sorry, I apologize.
So in order for us to continue to maintain those assets and grow those assets further, we really need to promote this atmosphere. We have a hard enough time trying to get people to come from not Long Island. Long Island is not the biotech hub that other universities are. We have a hard enough time bringing people 1 hour, 2 hours. At our last event, we had someone drive 2 hours for our event. We did not ask for a contract. We did not ask for anything. In order to get these people to come, we really do believe that it is required to be professional
dinner. And my last comment.
Point of information.
Senator Neely?
It's follow up on that. Saying that food is not essential for their club. In reality, it's the difference between paying for a contract and paying for a speaker who comes from like these huge companies like UL and
Air, Asset, Water, Company.
yeah, all of these companies come from off the island and other places, and they come here and not asking for a contract, and this club would then be giving them competency, and I don't believe that that would make them come back, and that's like directly hitting what they're trying to do. That's just
PPT Conley?
So one of the things you're looking to expand from, keeping the things that you had going along, adding newer and bigger things. I love that. I know for a fact every club, also love to expand and grow. But one thing too is that just because you've had events in the past that have gone well, it doesn't also necessarily mean that you always have to run the exact same events. So maybe looking at some events that maybe weren't as successful otherwise and kind of moving on the budget downward so that, maybe instead of doing this, let's say if we always did it in the fall and spring, maybe we'll keep the spring one and then we will allocate the fall, let's say for something, instead that would be then moved to accommodate this issue.
Yes, that's actually something we want to do. Basically, we don't want to turn the relationship that we built in the past, prior board, as well as the relationship that we built this year. We want to continue to keep those relationships going. Again, we're not asking for another food event for just people from Stony Brook University. We're asking for bringing new people who can share that high-level experience with. And I think the key here is that we have maybe what our mission statement should be, and maybe this is what we talk about internally, is our mission statement is to promote the external knowledge and experience of professionals at Stony Brook, not just professionals, also at other graduate programs and high-level universities. So really, I don't know if that would change things, but because that's part of our current statement, but not directly stated. But we want to bring a diverse range of experience to this, and that's really what we're trying to do.
Senator Williams? Nothing? Senator Fraser Brown? No?
Just a question for Treasurer Michelle. Clubs who can only lose 50% of the budget can only apply for 4 missions, right? So this club will not be allowed to apply for 4 missions. Just point that out there. I know you mentioned that they could apply for 4 missions, they cannot apply for 4 missions.
Well, just like the other meetings, I was to figure out what we're going to do.
No, I just didn't want to assume they were allowed to apply for 4 missions when they couldn't.
Senator Brown?
Also, if you're having new events, there's always a model event grant that you can move through.
Yes?
So I thought, based on some of the meetings earlier in the semester, that USG wanted us to have food events and stuff like that, based on some of the conversations about when clubs were being moved to SSC for failure to have a funded event. And there were some comments made, like, why not just take an event you have that you aren't spending money on, just have food at it? That seems a little contradictory to what's being said now.
Senator Brown?
I think what was meant, I didn't have any about the statement, you could have bought a bottle of soda. Yeah. That wasn't meant literally. It just mean that you could have spent money on anything. We're not encouraging people to just buy bottles of soda. We're just saying if you had bought a bottle of soda, you would not be in this situation.
We also don't need to be literal in every single thing we said.
All right. Are there any comments on medical engineering case? Any motions? It's up to you. If you have a comment, give anything about what we're talking about right now.
We could just give time for other clubs to pick up their issues and what kind of time press.
Well, there's no comment. If there's no more comments or anything, James, the case for biomedical engineering,
I do move to allocate $500 from the unallocated funds.
Second by Senator Neely. Is there any debate? Seeing none, we'll move straight to a standing vote on the motion to move $500 from unallocated funds to the biomedical engineering sites. All those in favor, please stand now. vote of 7 to 11 to 0, the motion fails. Are there any other, just hold on one second, sorry. VP Myers, show quick comment before we move on with the clubs.
I just want to share two things with you guys. Number one, I think that I came in a little bit late, so I didn't get to bring this up, but I think that we should have gone over internal budgets in USG before going over all the clubs. I think that maybe going over the club's budgets first creates like some sort of implicit bias of maybe trying to not give the clubs as much money as you think that they should be, while trying to save as much money for later to give towards internal matters, whether it's like SAB or SOC or something else. Number two, I know that we haven't passed any resolution or really even talked about it, at least in the Senate. We've talked about it a little bit in the Executive Council, but increasing the student activity fee. If we, in the Executive Council, we've been talking about raising the student activity fee $5, maybe even $10, put $150,000 to about $330,000 into our budget, into unallocated funds next semester, and clubs who aren't able to apply for fall revisions, to the best of my knowledge, are not eligible to access that money. So there could be potentially, $150,000 next year that, clubs here tonight or clubs who had their budget cut, maybe not enough to apply for fall revisions, are not able to access. So, these are things that I think could influence your decision here tonight, or like any decisions that you could have in the future.
If I could ask for clarification, since I've never seen an increase, only being a sophomore, an increase to the student activities fee, does that require a vote when it comes time to elections? So the a referendum to the student body. So it's, okay. I just wanted to gauge like how these things it could be, you know what I mean?
So that's what started off with the vote was the indecisive amount and contingency factor of where it would play out. Some representatives, as myself, would only vote yes if it were clearly outlined where it would go into the budget. And that's what we're waiting for the budget to pass first in order for later to map out where we can put it all in.
Okay, but this is a conversation that is
That needs
definitely
to be
coming.
had and not necessarily going to pass this time.
But this is a conversation that is definitely coming to the Senate.
The Senate needs to be passed by both the Senate.
All right.
As a
Thank you.
reference for student activity money, I recall that the fee is increased this extra 31,000 coming in, which can be reallocated to different areas. So like for students that want more funding, want more funding for food for their events or different things like that, that are like, they really are bonuses. We try to give the bare minimum at the very least. But we want those bonuses and those come at a cost, unfortunately.
Floor is yours.
Awesome.
Say, we want to make a clear.
Hi, my name is Mary Garvey. I'm from 90.1 WSG, the radio station that you may know, not know exists. So, how many of you guys listen to music? Let's be honest, everyone's raising Sorry. Online, when you're stuck in traffic on Nichols Road, you attend concerts, you go to Panic at the Disco. We could actually broadcast that for you if you want, and you can have those recorded later. But WSB is not a club. It's an organization. It's a service. It's a historian society that has been here for 39 years, older than me, not as old as the parents. It's a media outlet, just like WTV, who lost their budget a few years ago. It's a community hub for on-campus and Long Island with more diverse programming than any other club combined. We have 24 hours of programming per day, again, more than any other club or organization combined. And we fundraise more so than any other because we match our fundraising with the budget that you give us, which we failed to obtain this year because I had a death in the family, and so was Isabel, and we were both incapacitated, basically. So we couldn't get it on time, and to us that's our fault, but we have been fiscally responsible because every penny of the $62,000 that you give us is spent on bills. Phone bills, paying the engineer, making sure that we stay on air, the online hubs. Everything goes to these. We're not spending money on food, on guest speakers. We get everything donated because we reach out and ask. And I'm asking you guys to let us keep our station because without it, we'd be throwing how many years of history away? We would not be able to say, hey, Jefferson Airplane played here in the 70s because, hey, WSB doesn't exist anymore. Just like Mood. Mood was an organization in the 70s that was very similar to Rocket Face. And they got picked up the carpet too. They used to be in Kelly Diamond. That's where Blue Oyster Cult first played on the island.
If I may
Now-
add, you guys, they are MCing, y'all forgot I made them MC. You guys are, it's very familiar space on campus, you don't always have big events.
And also with our new remote broadcasting system, we can broadcast from anywhere on campus. For example, we could be broadcasting meetings right now, but people have work, we're all volunteers here. We've been denied asset grants from this past year. We've had a board donate to the radio station from WBAB, I believe, and we don't have the funds to install it because our board's from 1969, brought in 1972, and we can't update new board to have the knobs working. We have an old outdated antenna that we can't find the parts for anymore because it's discontinued, and we would like to get a new antenna so that we can stay on the air. And we've already started making plans for when the union does move, and they gut it and move everyone out, because we know that we have this remote broadcasting system, and we can just attempt to allocate for like a creeper van and broadcast out of there. So we have plans in place. It's not like we've been spending money on, I don't know, buying Taco Bell for every DJ in the station. We have dedicated people that are in there 3 to 6 a.m. I used to have a slot, and I was there every week on time with a smile on my face. Now, I'm trying to teach myself as treasure to get out all of your hair, but Travis is there at 5 a.m. every Friday morning, and he hopefully will be the new treasure. We just dedicate he's there on time, he's there 10 minutes early. But please don't shut us down, because we love you, we love us, and without us, it'd be really sad. And go ahead, ask your question.
I'm assuming that the only reason they show up as a zero on the budget line is because they were unable to attend a budget hearing?
No, so they did not submit a budget application, they have a draft presented to all parties March first. I do want to clarify, you're not being shut down, and you're still eligible to get a budget. The entire process, as we discussed with Mark, to the budget hearing, he said that based off of your following vision and budget, you would still be able to function at capacity. I'm not sure what the asset grant was, I don't know if I received it, or if that was something that came in after the rest of the.
That's not, I said it's too much money.
Oh, like 17,000, so the next trial, and then probably also have to go through the percent that had already been allocated for. So that's something that I recommend like earlier. But like, I just do want to make it clear that like if people get funded through this, you're still line budget status. You're still able to get your summer budget and your bills over summer that you're You're still able to get your water business budget. Like the least amount of money that we allocate to you guys is for bills that you already like actually. So, and I know that you guys recently just got a lot of money to something together.
That's part of our fundraising.
Yeah.
So we match whatever money that you give us. For example, we're having a fundraiser on April 16th, and you guys shall come to next Thursday.
VP Ailton? Okay, Senator Blaise Brown?
So just to, again, it seems that there's a lot of conversations going on beyond that. So this is something that they still need to go through a process, if I understand, but they're still going to be able to function. All right.
Can you clarify that?
Right, so, any club that's not by 50% or more, whatever they had this year, they're able to go through the power revisions process. So whoever the next USG treasurer will be sent, me or me?
No, I got it, just for the speakers, Tico.
Okay, so whoever, is the next USG treasurer will be sending out emails over the summer, collecting applications, and we'll be working with the new budget committee to, distribute those funds. So, and I know that most people here probably aren't aware, WUSB, their advisor, as well as Vice President, came to the meeting. He was also at the leadership conference, and he met with budget committee took a week, thought about it, and decided from there not to add them to the budget just because it wouldn't be fair to all the other clubs that went through the same thing. There were clubs such as my own club, American Institute of Engineers, who asked like 5 minutes after the deadline, like if they could submit one. And as in every previous year, it's been kept to a hard deadline because it's not fair to different groups. There were like numerous emails sent out since like January 20th or so. But sorry, I have.
Trevor?
As someone who did attend the budget hearing, or the appeal hearing at USG, as someone who has been at the USG meetings, who is clear that we can function, although maybe not at the level we would like. We can survive going through the summer budget, the 12-month experience, we know we work in the harder we do, and thank you for that.
You also shouldn't have to fundraise over $60,000 to keep going. There should be some kind of, maybe not even within USG, but within the university itself, because we are more of a service kind of club, which is what this hearing is about.
Which is what we don't see that. Although Senator not familiar.
I'm just gonna say something, like, this happens every year. I mean, we've never cut one fee before, and we should just give them their money and move on. It happens every year, and no, we never cut them, so just give them their money and move on to the next club.
Senator Levashito?
Motion to allocate $63,200 from the unallocated funds to WSB.
63,000, can you repeat that? The number?
$63,200 and 0 cents.
Is there a second? Seeing none, the motion fails. Yes, Kyle.
Just a point, WSB has been getting a lot less money over the years than what it has in previous years. It's just been cut or raised minimally, little by little over the past few years. If you account for inflation, some of its previous budgets that it had been granted would be actually over 90,000 when you adjust for inflation. USG hasn't been keeping up with the amount. It's effectively been cutting it to a third of what it used to have. And that's what they're asking for, is 2/3 of what they used to get when you adjust for inflation. And you're not giving them anything at all based on some very difficult circumstances that they had. And personally, I have a total of only 2 emails from Catherine regarding the dates of when budget applications were due, and I'm I'm president of a club. I got 2. You told me that you were still sending me out all of them.
So you were on it in the beginning prior to the early March, you were still on that email. You've also been receiving, I pulled up recently, I checked before going through this to make sure that emails were sent to their campus accounts. Those emails were printed out and showed who was a recipient of those at the budget meeting when this was discussed. And all 4 signature numbers were on that.
Senator Bladen Brown? Go ahead.
No.
PPT Pomeroy?
Also, just for the sake of it, we also have to be viewpoint neutral in terms of everything that we do. So, in this case, if we were to give this money back to Busby for this, that would mean that every other club that also missed this deadline would then, ultimately be due, so to say, that money too. Something to keep in mind.
Yes.
Just to kind of that point, correct, there was extenuating circumstances as to why these things didn't get done, correct? I mean, you said at the beginning, you guys had to deal with some personal issues, correct?
I've been in that business.
All right. And they had a very long track of successfully running their organization.
And it's understandable that there are some changing circumstances, and all of us can attest to having gone through some in the life that we had, because it definitely sympathize with doing that.
Am I allowed to make a similar motion that was already said?
Is it exactly the same?
Is it not allowed to be exactly the same?
Try your luck.
All right, I would like to move to restore the budget of $63,200 to WUSB.
Second.
Can you just be more precise about where you're moving the money?
From the unallocated funds. Restore for next year. For the 2015 to 2016 budget. I apologize for my getting.
So $63,200.
Yes.
Seconded by Senator Levinson. Is there any debate?
If I may.
Oh, so sorry. I've had you on this. Yeah, I told you not to sit here.
Senator Miller, I think I'm going to this all to actually go over like what that $60,000 exactly. It seems like it's a lot of money and kind of.
Can I?
Okay, so a big chunk of the money goes to Frank, our engineer, who will maintain the station. The rest of it goes to telephone bills, internet bills. Oh yeah, the high tower rental fee, which is in with the 40,000 watts that it's.
Well, I mean, it doesn't always necessity and the usership.
So we're still in debate, yes. Senator Lewis.
However, it's been stated by,
No, this wasn't 30 years.
Excuse me, guys.
they're still be able to function, they just be able to function at the level the capacity that they want. And they still always follow this. It can still be done. So you don't necessarily need to allocate the money here and there.
Oh, you can also go to GSO too, because you not only get it from citizens,
They give us a $1,200 grant to use program, but their budget isn't quite as expensive as the undergraduate is.
Senator Levinson.
So by not giving this club, WSB, the money that they need to function, we're basically crippling a club that has like 3 broken legs already, and something that still stands, like despite all of that. And it's just amazing that the club can kind of do this. It's not just in Stony Brook. You hear them all across Long Island, in Connecticut, maybe even in New Jersey, who knows, on boats. This is a Stony Brook tradition, Stony Brook legend that needs to be kept. This is our beautiful trophy that is 30 as it is. We're basically what they said, you know what I mean? Like, we need to polish them up a little bit. Like, this isn't even enough, like this $63,000, like honestly. Like, we should be giving them more money, like, to do what they need to do. So that we'd be proud of this, and this is a starting point.
Proxy Coachia.
Pass. Are they able to receive the entirety of the $63,000 through fall revisions?
However, it was said earlier that that's done when it comes to access to public true. So if they wanted to go through and apply for more waiver, for example, if it's 10-year contract that's going to be expiring to help them remainder of those costs throughout the year, they can still do that. And that's a reminder for the club to say that they can function about it. And I hope you understand, I'm not looking for someone to that WSB awesome, I listen to a lot actually. But there's a certain process and there's a certain way to go about things that is to be at least held in a fair manner. So we'll just keep in mind that whatever you do, we have to do the best.
Well, these are. Sorry.
Guys, we really need to be completely neutral, and there are 24 clubs on here that could have had extenuating circumstances, aren't here to defend themselves, and they also can't function with the $0 that they have right now, as far as we're concerned.
I guess I'll just repeat what Senator Pomeroy and Senator Barat said, in that we really should be viewpoint neutral in this case. If we give Busby the money now, then why should any of the other clubs that didn't submit an application on time not be eligible to submit an application and receive money just like they would be now?
Did those clubs go through the process of appealing? Are they here to make the case that they had extenuating circumstances? Responsible for that?
Yes?
It'll be in response to this question.
Would you like to follow up now?
Yeah, to be completely honest, I think the fact that they went through the appeal process is irrelevant, because that is being viewpoint neutral and going through an appeals process in accordance with our law says that the recommendation needs to be made by the treasurer to say if she's going to make a recommendation to the Senate to give them money or not. And in this case, the recommendation was rejected in a viewpoint neutral manner, and it makes absolutely no sense to consider giving them money. They can function without the money at this current time. They can go to 12 regions, they can get the summer budget like everyone's already been saying. They have opportunities to get asset grants and anything else. So it really doesn't make sense to have this conversation.
Is that a follow-up to his statement?
Yes. What I'm saying is that did those other clubs that you're saying that it's not fair, it's not viewpoint neutral to not allow to give one club that is here to make the case that they had extenuating circumstances behind the issue with not having the budget application in on time. They're here to make that case, and you're saying that the other clubs who are not here to make that case, that it's unfair to them to grant a budget to WUSB because those clubs aren't making the effort to be here to explain extenuating circumstances that they may have had. If they didn't have them, then there's no issue of not being viewpoint neutral as far as I can understand it in saying that these other clubs aren't being granted budgets because of extenuating circumstances if none of them have extenuating circumstances. And if none of them are bringing that to attention, it doesn't make sense to me.
I just want to remind everyone there's 13 minutes left in the meeting. Does anybody have a motion to extend?
I move to extend the meeting on by another 30 minutes.
Second. We just extended by an hour because we're clearly going to be here. We still have to go through the Constitution and all this.
You can pay for it.
Don't worry about that.
Plus it's happening.
I can't do it.
That's fine. Are there objections?
Nope.
Anyway, quickly.
Excellent. So again, it's completely irrelevant because they appealed to the budget committee. Their appeal was considered. It was rejected in a viewpoint neutral manner in accordance with our laws and any laws that exist in the universe. And in order to continue to be viewpoint neutral, we need to ensure.
Come on.
You said in the universe.
This process is upheld. We already established the fact that they can function without getting a budget right now. That's all we.
Both of your points have been made very clearly.
Senator Wilkinson?
All right. Yes, we are still in debate on Senator Blazen Brown's motion to reinstate $63,200 back to WUSB. Yes.
I called a question.
Is there a second to end motion to end debate? Second by Senator Guido. All those in favor of ending debate, please stand. Unanimous? No, not unanimous. My machine doesn't The vote is 16 to 1, 0. The motion passes. We'll move straight into a vote on whether to reinstate $63,200 to the line budget of WUSB. So all those in favor of moving $63,200 from unallocated funds to the WUSB budget, please stand now. The vote is 2, 15, 0. The motion fails. So it was so are there any other clubs here who are looking to make a case to the Senate? Yes. Just state your name and
I have a question because we can't really hear you over here. So can you guys go over fall revisions as well? Because I'm sitting here, I guess other people sitting here too, and they're thinking that they have to fight now for the budget, and we haven't even reviewed our
the budget application and what you guys took out. So it's really hard for me to make a case about my, budget. So I wanna know exactly the process for residents and how much money you can get back, because it wasn't really explained as clearly, or I couldn't hear it because, like, you can't hear you, I can't hear you. That's explained to us now.
Senator Williams, so the time for you to put your case on your budget application was at the budget hearing. This is not the budget hearing, so this is a courtesy that we're trying to extend. So in terms of arguing your budget now, that should have been done how many weekends ago now? Bianca?
Yeah, we didn't really tell exactly how much our budget will be. We didn't say that we're gonna allocate this and this to you. So I do think that, sometimes there needs to be more transparency about what exactly was cut, because when I read it wasn't that detailed, to be honest.
I think everybody found out what was cut today.
Yeah.
Today was Monday.
I think there needs to be more transparency, and like maybe just send us exactly as from people something. It's so hard to make your case for your organization when you don't exactly know from where,
So, I wasn't sitting in your particular hearing, but, I completely agree that you should be told what you're being cut in your hearing. At the same time, the hearings aren't finalized, and because of that belief, I tried to stop the hearing so that they didn't do that. So every senator was assigned a certain group of clubs that they would be sitting in on the hearing with and would serve as their representatives. They went through the budget entirely before they even met with you and made all of the cuts based off of their knowledge of the club. And granted, as club leaders, you guys have to realize that I'm not going to know everything about BWA, CLA, but there's no way anyone here is going to be fully knowledgeable. So that's another reason we have those hearings. And they asked certain questions. From what I understand in your particular hearing, there were a couple of the questions that hit discussion, so they weren't able to completely get through all of your application review. But at the same time, they did go through and tell you, like, at the very minimum, for you to sit doctor, what was being cut. And the vast majority of funds were completed on time and one faster. And the exact documents after the hearings, I have all those on here, and I meant to look about before the meeting, because, 3 days in this meeting, and they'll be up there. So you'll be able to see it, and you'll also be able to come in and schedule meetings. I'm probably gonna set up a different set of times for when.
She was cut over.
Yeah, so you guys, well, not really, because the final amount was technically 0 for this year.
Yeah.
So on there, it's not.
I just have one more thing to add, but so because I know you're still able to get it up the night before, like if you guys agree on our budget, it's gonna make it harder for us to kind of argue our case for it because we didn't really see it. So are you guys gonna vote on the final budget now or gonna hold off for that until next week? Because
No, we voted on it today.
so okay, so like if you guys vote on the final budget today, like how am I gonna be able to argue for it accurately if I don't know exactly what was cut? Like I don't think that's fair process.
Senator Williams?
So when you fill out a budget application, you allocate amounts to items listed on your budget application, correct? When you give in your budget, you're not giving your budget and list of things that you allocated for. You're given a lump sum for you to use however you see fit. And basically the budget application is for you to communicate to us what you still want to see for the next academic year. So just because you're not given like $500 for an event from the budget application doesn't mean you can't move that money from somewhere else to that event. So you can use your money how you see fit as long as it aligns with financial bylaws. So you don't have to worry about, hey, we lost this amount of money, what are we gonna do? You can always fundraise for stuff, which I'm sure you are well aware of because you said you've done many fundraising type events. So it's not that you can't hold these events because it was cut from your budget, it's that you have less money to work with, so now you have to be a little bit more creative in how you're gonna generate the funds for that.
Like that was not my issue on the issue is that we don't know the exact like so like for us to even sit here and like try to appeal for more money, like that's gonna be hard for us to do on our end. And my second thing I brought is that like I can't hear you over here, so I don't really understand when you guys say forward vision. So if you guys can like explain that more, understand that clubs that got cut from 150% can apply for a business. So can you guys explain the extent to how much money they can get back?
So for the sake of time, I would ask that we don't digress into explain the processes and all that stuff. If you want to send over, to Charlotte, speak to them about salaries. But for the sake, what I was asking, why I wanted to open it up to clubs is when they saw their number and they saw that they could specifically not function because a certain number was cut. That's what I was asking for repeal. I didn't want it to open up to what did you cut and why did you cut it. That could be handled outside the center, just for the sake of the other clubs and the other people here and the other matters that we do have on the agenda. I didn't want to digress into that. In the matter of that, that's why I just didn't want to be like, what the whole revision process and all that stuff. If you want, you can speak to it right now. Now, unless VP Adelson or Senator Williams, you guys are both going to speak to us, do you have points that address the whole business process? Because I would not like to hear about that now. Or revision process? No. Okay, then we may speak.
Okay, so you don't know what was cut, but you do know the amount of what was listed on as per your budget application. You're given a lump sum, and you know the amounts that were listed for each item. So you do know what you can work with. So it's not, you're not walking into the next academic year blind.
Okay, VP.
In terms of the budget having to be approved today, that's not necessarily the case because the Senate can approve to extend the budget timeline to whatever they see fit, as long as it's not past April 30th, according to our current constitution. It is.
In compliance with Beijing,
Anyway, do you have a specific appeal to like a specific charity or club functioning?
Yeah, for my case, I want to do the engagement first and also the more. The stage alone cost $5,500, and we were allocated about $5,000.
So, alright, so Barclays Association is a particular case, like it's at the discretion of that tuition holder. So you were allocated $12,000 for the year, you lost it because of not following financial bylaws, and then so that makes your actual full academic year budget zero. So next quarter you're gonna have to work with us to determine whether they'll determine the increases of the items across that case yet, so we'll have to end up doing it. You'll have to work with us to determine whether or not you can apply for it based on the 12,000 or zero. And in either case, I do want to stress that a lot of people put a lot of hype on what we're doing here. But keep in mind that nothing is absolutely final. You can still come later on and be like, oh, we want to host this new event and get, as Taylor said, the novel event grants. You can try and work with AD because you had $5,000 for stage for with the Rainbow Center, Taylor Mensa. Yeah, so if you use our AD services, it's cheaper. So a lot of those costs that people put were reduced because we know cheaper alternatives.
It's actually 80 doesn't even provide the stage, enough stage and for what we do because our stage is really huge and you guys don't really provide that kind of stage. That's the reason.
Yes. Senator Williams, it's point of clarification, having a fashion show is not in your club's mission statement.
This is part of our Black History Month meeting that we've done for 37 years, so.
Yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware it's been in the weekend, but fashion show is not a mission statement. So
please, I don't want this to digress into a specifics argument. I would like to exhaust every person that we do have as long as the actual processes that we go through into the student. So I guess the point of question here is, like we have other clubs, their argument is that they cannot function without a stage. Is there a senator here without going into the nitty-gritty and anything that you do address, you address through the chair, please. Have anything to comment on it?
Yes. Staging?
Yes. Are you at their budget committee here?
No.
I mean, if you have a comment in general, you may.
When we did our fashion show, we had a 4x8 stage that came out of the thing, and it was pretty long.
Yes.
I move to approve the 2015-2016 fiscal year budget for the undergraduate student government.
Whoa. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator. We are now in debate. Yes.
If I may, I know I had something that I wanted to add to the budget discussion, and I don't know if we've exhausted all the clubs.
Please, guys. Continue. I'm sorry. Continue.
And I don't know that we've exhausted all the clubs that wish to speak on behalf of their club.
Well, that's what the thing is. We moved into debate. It's nothing's final. We're not going to move on. But yeah, before we move on, there's nothing to say for Black Women's Weekend Association. Do you have any other questions regarding? So there's really no comment. None of the senators believe there's a case for the staging. And I don't know if you heard, but another senator argued that his club received a certain type of staging, which was smaller than the one that you provided on the budget application. So there are alternatives. There's argued that to the staging that you provided on the budget application.
If you want to motion to expand the, like I can talk to Catherine one-on-one, actually understand, and whether you guys understand.
So also that was brought up was next year, depending on the discretion of the treasurer that comes into office, you will have the ability to do that because technically your budget was cut by more than 50%. So I don't want to move on before you are satisfied with everything because you've exhausted any types of questions from that. So if you do have any different type of questions, please do so. Ask now. If not, I'm sure if you go over with Treasurer Michaud, you feel free to go over with me.
I just want to say that of the 130 clubs that we have listed on here, there's no possible way that I can meet with everybody by next week. Well, if you did push off until next week, there's no possible way.
So moving on to any other club representatives here who would like to make a case to the Senate. Please feel free to raise your hand. Yes.
I mean, I would like to make an argument for an increase of fund. Am I allowed to just,
Yes.
are we going to cater to clubs if there were any first?
I can see them, so it's before you.
Wonderful. I was looking to actually increase the Student Activities Board current funding. I think it's been on it. Well, I don't know. We're currently in March, so I don't know whether that needs to be.
You could, it's an amendment to the second degree, so you ready to say.
Okay, so I guess I'd first like to open it up to a discussion on it. Am I allowed to? Can we just have a conversation about it?
Actually,
Yeah.
just open, if you make the motion and it's seconding, then we'll be moving into debate, that's a discussion right there.
Well, we're currently in debate, right?
I'm debating to pass the budget as a whole. Now,
I would like to move into it.
amend the budget for a certain amount moving somewhere, that'll be amendment to the second degree, and now we open up to debate to discuss that.
All right, I would move to increase Student Activity Board funding by $100,000
From where?
from the unallocated funds.
All right. Seconded by Senator John Madal. Yes. Now, Senator Mealy.
You talked about the number.
I think you just chose a random number.
No, I didn't. I honestly didn't choose a random number. I've been thinking about numbers throughout the evening. I've been looking at what we've been giving back to clubs, what we have to take into consideration for fall revisions to be able to be flexible with them. I just didn't know whether I was going to do something just to start a conversation. But regardless, there's been conversations about SAB not being able to handle added funds, more money, more problems, I believe was the terminology used. But in the case of Student Activities Board, oftentimes all it is a quality upgrade of the artists you're bringing in, a quality upgrade of the speakers you're bringing in, quality of maybe the systems you're using. I mean, I know one of the considerations we were trying to do for the spring concert this year was better staging. I know that was something that Danny, you wanted to get better equipment. Am I right?
Yeah, stage stuff.
Thank you, Danny. No, but I mean, it's.
But like you said, in all seriousness, we even this year we've made improvements to the quality of our events. That was just my personal opinion on that. But yeah, allocating more would improve our ability to get better artists, which has been a recent issue. If you guys have or not followed.
If you're on Facebook and you like Flame Wars, go to the Student Activities Board Bookfest page. You can watch the show. Anyway, I think a lot of the arguments that are made are that why do we have some people are less than thrilled with some of like the artists that we bring in. Some people cite that either A, they're like less known, B, that they are people who were. That's a reflection of the price that we can pay for them. The closer we come to a current artist, in the case of musicians and stuff, the more money we have to pay. And the more money we allocate, the closer we are able to obtain those things and give the students, I think, what they want.
So personally, I don't like giving SAB that much more money because I feel like the quality of concerts, and like other events, people are gonna flame on it either way, like a lot consistently. But I do think that money could go to other events, like the movie nights that you guys are having have been really successful, so I've heard, and so I believe more events like that. And in regards to the number, I think that based on how viewpoint neutral we've been being with all these clubs, I think that number is really reasonable. What can be done.
And just to go off what he said, I apologize.
I would just say, having an increased budget from last year also gives us more flexibility. For example, we were able to, collaborate with GSO in the Neil deGrasse Tyson show, which then opened the seating up for undergraduates. We were not able to give them some sort of money to help them put on the show. They would not have provided seats for the undergraduates. And we were able to move that show from the original 1,000 from Stoller to, I believe, athletics for what's going to hold about 3,000 students. We'll be able to go to that show. I know as we are, opening up for, different events, concerts, speakers, Bill Nye 2 years ago. This year is going to be Neil deGrasse Tyson. And then we're going to keep that going. Bigger names, bigger speakers, you get a bigger draw to the name to the school.
Senator Polito?
I'm going to quote. I think we're better off giving money to clubs that do a variety of programs to a variety of audiences than we are to give money to one board that is catering only necessarily to a specific group of people at a time.
Senator Bleaser Okay.
I believe there's also an RHA rep and a CSA rep at this board, so we're actually catering to, the commuter students audience, about half the school of undergraduates. So I would not just say that we just cater to one board is catered to a very specific group of people. Our events cater to about 3,400 large scales that we have.
One represent all of RHA, one person represent all of CSA.
I mean, and I hope that you did a good job appointing that person.
I'd like to think I did, though, thanks.
Guys, I don't like it when mommy and daddy fight. I just think there should be money there.
We're still on discussion of, on the motion. Mallory.
Do you have anything that SAB has been fiscally responsible in the past couple of years since you said that they did go over budget?
In the past couple of years, it's definitely improved. A couple of years back, it was over 40,000, 46,000 or so. Last year, it was limited to 7,000. And part of that was just from not making the experience and know what types of ticket values were coming in, maybe like overestimating their revenues. That stuff is variably never going to go 100%, so it's bound to happen at some point. But there were steps taken this year to kind of change how the funds were managed in SAB, which has made them much more fiscally, helps towards improving fiscal responsibility.
And it's not really just I care less what goes where, but it's not just the concerts and lectures. Mallory's event, Moves Abroad, was actually funded through SAB, which kind of set the precedent for just individuals who have an idea and wanting to get started to come and appeal to the SAB board and get funding, kind of serving as their own grant pool as well. Proxy approach.
Roth Data as well. I was going to point out that Roth Data funding also comes from the SAB board, and that's one of the field of students take a big lend in. We do cater to a lot of smaller groups in that case, where each small club is allowed to put a boat in, they create their own cover boat. So I think that's a big event where the whole student body comes together.
I also there was discussions at the earlier bit of the year when I was actually attending student activities board meetings, attempting to obtain more essentially long-term use items. I believe curtains and stuff of them were discussed at meetings, and it could adding more money could long-term save SAB money and make them a more efficient entity, being able to obtain more permanent items, I believe.
Trevor?
I wanted to point out that a number thrown out there earlier that we have zero budget this year, including our
around 170. I did some more calculations to include the clubs that were cut by more than 50% of the received budget. Added that into 50% maximum eligibility for clubs who have no budget. And it comes out to about, of that 300,000, up to 91,500 could be going back to clubs. So the rest of that money isn't necessarily going, Kim actually, how many clubs are available for the high budget status?
Roughly 8, I want to say. Roughly 8.
I have a question. How worn out is the
No, even if it's 100,000, that would be about 1,100,000 for, no, sorry.
About 100.
110,000, there you go. 110,000 would be left to essentially be divided between 8 clubs that will be achieving library. Which to me says, if you look at the math, it's a good proposal.
Thank you. Senator Polito?
Sorry, just say that, I wasn't aware of events like Mallory's being funded through SAP. I think that's definitely something that should be pushed further. But at the same time, I would say I'd be in support of Senator Boyce's amendment if there was student activity fee funding to take over with that. The thing is either it's not.
Mallory?
Okay, I have a couple things. One, to clarify, I want clubs to be go through SAP. I would assist a single student. Which is, yeah, individual, so you can't let this club do that. Second, so like just to keep in mind, like we're telling all these clubs like it would be great if we give you a lot of money to improve, but like we're only giving you bare minimum. So like I believe that SAB can function and function very well, and I am very big into like getting Beyonce and like everyone really wants to come. But I'm just saying like it's great to say like yeah we had a bunch of new artists and stuff, but at the same time SAB right now can function and can function very well under this budget. And we can't, set a precedent, like, you just set a precedent saying that you're gonna tell clubs that to do one thing, then you're gonna say that USG, because we're all into whatever, we run that, it's okay to give us $100,000 increase. No, that should not be what's going on.
If I may, I mean, 2 other points are, like, some of the other things that have been discussed aren't just, like, everyone keeps going, concert. It's other events as well, but also, I mean, one of the things I think a lot of us can agree on is that this campus lacks is like a unity in like school spirit and like stuff that we all get behind. I mean, athletics is working on increasing it on that end, and I think that's something that also USG should be working to increase that like student involvement in unity type events, stuff like rock regatta, like stuff like more like that. I mean, that stuff comes out of SAB, I think in a lot of cases, and it can come out of those things. And more funding towards that, I think, can try to help develop that like school unity.
Yeah. Okay, so straightforward, everyone here is like going for this year, I'm probably past good money, but I'm very profiled, I'm not usually on the side of. What has been discussed with myself, some of the budget committee members, and a couple of people in here, I think, was the idea of creating another grant that would be appropriate under the project code for SCD if given out. So this would be a way to, budget committee would be the ones ultimately deciding it. They would want to check to make sure that the funds were available for it in the United States bylaws, but something that would be recommended to SCD to actually decide whether or not they wanted to take up that project. A current one that I've actually been working with students with that I'm sure you've been involved with, Ken, I know, and are the chariot races that have been discussed for a while. So like Andre, some of you might know, he's trying to put on chariot races in the fall, which is like their hope is to have it grow to be something like Rock Regatta just
on land.
So if you are going to look to increase SCD, whatever works to increase student funds and I'm for whatever everybody outside wants. But I think you should have a targeted goal in mind. I think 100,000 is a little extreme. Because you do have these clubs that are only eligible to get 50% maximum coming back this year, but what about the year after when they want to go back to another function? If you're taking 100,000 away, you're sure, and you're putting it to SAB, you can't tell me that the next USG board is going to take that out again and give it back to the clubs who have it before.
I mean,
No.
okay, sorry.
Yeah, like, I love SAB just as much as anybody else, but I do feel like if we're taking away like $100,000 from clubs and then we're giving it to SAB, like, I don't think that's right. And although we do have extra money for that, I feel like we should consider the clubs first before we consider, SAB. Also, I just feel like, we should invest, if we do invest in SAB, invest in the things that will last a long time, not just a 2-hour event that happens once a year, because clubs can have multiple events throughout the year and it will affect more different people, more diversity on campus.
VP Myers?
So I just want to compare us to like another school that like a lot of people like to compare us to. SUNY Binghamton has their student activity fee, which is around like $94.50, and then they have got this campus life fee that our school actually doesn't have. And their campus life fee is $35 for fully matriculated students. And that campus life fee comes out to, with all their students, comes out to about $850,000 a year. And that money goes to weekend life and like pretty much their SAP type events. So right now we give SAP $610,000, and Weekend Life Council has about $60,000 to work with, but someone might correct me on that. So when you add those two numbers together, it's still about like $200,000, just under $200,000 less than SUNY Binghamton uses for their Weekend Life programming and large event programming. So I think that you should give SAP an increase, but maybe do it gradually over time, like we've kind of been doing. But that's ultimately up to you guys to decide.
Senator Rob? Holloway?
Just devil's advocate for what it said before, we can say that clubs don't also bring school unity. I definitely want to run to certain club events, and that certainly brings the campus together, as well as another point that is completely forgot. So,
Senator Williams?
Quotation marks in place.
Senator Dooley? Oh. Sorry. Okay.
All right, and then just to finish that off too, I know we do have a lot of funds left over, but at least in terms of one of the things that we were really thinking of doing with all that is that it would be for them, like I said, in terms of grants, in terms of fall revisions. So even though it seems like the money's not being used, it's not that it's just going to be lying. Like we did this all in mind with the idea that it would be going places. That just we have all this extra money that while we're at it, let's just start throwing it around places.
Okay, Senator Dooley?
So I actually agree with VP Myers, but also previous to this point and this point and all that. There is a lot of money in the funds right now, and to imagine that the Senate would give that kind of money to the club as a whole, like I would love to give that kind of money to the clubs and have them see it used like really well, and it would be great. But I really just don't believe that that will ever happen. So that's why I'm like okay with this money going to be allocated somewhere.
Senator Blaise Brown. You're next on my speaker list.
Yes.
All right. Treasurer Michelle.
Right, so, we were talking about picking up curtains and some large scale assets like that. So that's something that wouldn't always have to go through SAB. A lot of times there is a surplus of, for example, $54,000 in non-allocated pool that can be given to projects like that. Those curtains, it's something that would take a lot of money out of programming, and SAB is supposed to be for programming. So there's other ways to get that.
And SAB is the biggest majority of students on campus. So I think they deserve money. And like I think we're first that was me, and so we should down money with
Administrative Director Capobianco. Just so clarification on the unallocated amount that we currently have. Keep in mind that you do get fall revisions kind of amount where the money that isn't spent in this year's budget is brought back in the fall. It usually actually always ranges generally between $80,000, maybe $100,000 in addition to the unallocated that's not done in this budget. So I would say that just historically speaking, having $300,000 in your unallocated is very conservative compared to what was done in years past. We're at a 15-minute warning.
May I move to extend the meeting time then?
Is there any rules that?
So I will say, a room reservation ends at 11. If I were to act facilities, but I would imagine there's any way they would let it go beyond 11:30.
Cool.
Oh, Darren, give it a try already.
It's Thursday night, man.
No, it's fine, just extend it.
I would like to extend it another half hour. It doesn't mean we gotta use it.
Okay, second. That would be to,
I just remember the last time we allocated.
Are there any
about
objections to
5
that?
minutes.
So moved. Kyle.
One of the things that you guys have been going around a lot as far as viewpoint neutrality. Do you think it's really viewpoint neutral to say we like what SAB is doing, and for X, Y, and Z reasons, and therefore we think we should give them $100,000 more in budget based on that when we're cutting clubs to the bare minimum?
Senator Polito?
Question for Treasurer Bishop, can SAP be given money during full revisions, or is that reserved only for clubs?
That's only reserved for clubs. However, historically, SAP usually does get added money throughout the year. So for example, last year, later on, they did get an extra $35,000. And I believe the Senator was also appropriate funds to SAP. So if it's not done now, yeah, so if it's not done now, then it can still be done later after you have established that no other groups can
Did you mind?
Just correct me if I'm wrong, but the student community did go up, which I hope everyone pushes for. Either we go towards unallocated funds and then those allocated funds could also go towards.
If that happens.
Well, I think it would depend on the way the referendum is framed. Because in the referendum, you can actually align and you can dedicate where those funds will be allocated.
Sean is shaking his head.
So the way the student government used to run in a function where there would be a referendum saying, I want to give $2 to the sailing club, I want to give $1 to the science fiction club, yada yada. That was actually removed entirely, and that's no longer the way that it is functioned. So as a Senate, you could agree in some extent to earmark it. However, that's not binding. Any increases in activity fee would just go to the overall budget of the student government, which then would be up to you all to then appropriate out.
Senator Brisbane.
I think another thing to take into account in this conversation is the venues for, I think one of the traditions that has started to appear is a spring show, Brookfest, and Back to the Brook in the fall. Now I know 2 years ago, I don't have history really beyond that. It was held at Stoller, and the cost of production for that show is lower than the arena, which is now. So there are costs that are increasing to put on shows of the same caliber as a couple years before. So I just wanted to make that point out. And I mean, there is less being spent on our Brookfest show than there was 2 years ago. Granted, nothing has to be spent on a Brookfest show as there was 2 years ago, because that was a very, very expensive show, but the costs are very different. And if we want to keep up this quality, I think we need to allocate more funds.
So, if there's no more debate, yes?
Never mind.
Yes.
I was going to say that, by increasing the funds for SAB and SAB potentially getting big artists, the increase in these funds allows us to keep the tickets for the students at a minimum. I would say $5 to $10. If we were to want an increase of talent, we will also then have to reflect that cost on the students. And let's be honest, I don't think any student wants to pay more than $50 or $60 for a concert, when potentially allocating this money could put it within your budget for $5 to $10 to go to a concert.
I don't think that the increase is uncalled for by $100,000 to go upstream. I think that if you are going to increase funds on something, that you should have a direct purpose and flexibility. So, my recommendation, if you are going to increase it, was to do it slowly, as Ken recommended earlier, and perhaps allocate $5,000 to $10,000 for I mean, you can't directly allocate it for it right now, but with the idea behind it, thinking behind chariot races or a similar like fall type of roster now that.
Yeah, how about, Senator Jordan on that?
I don't have a problem with the extra money on the SAD, but I do think they should be incorporated in other areas besides just like concerts and, you know, most of the students really feel. I don't know how it works like, as far as, well, I know how the selection works like, as far as artists, but it seems like a lot of students, when you do get an artist, both artists, either get better artists or have like a new campus tradition, which I was trying to do again, but like a carnival, a yearly carnival at the end of the year where you bring like actual rides. So probably trying to incorporate that something else. And oh yeah, more to the senior class or something like that. But you know, I'm not opposed to it. I just think it can be allocated.
I would just also like to point out, I mean, our unallocated funds last year was $50,000. Now, granted, we do have more that could be up for fall revisions than I believe last year was as well. But I mean, what is our unallocated funds normally like? Tom, can you add any history to that?
I mean, you're generally, it depends on how much your current budgets are over, which every year there are budgets that go over. I would say you're probably fair to say it's going to be somewhere in 80 to 100,000. I think it's a safe range for what you'll see in the coming fall.
The past three rollovers were, well, this one was 104, the one before that was like 111, and the one before that was like 113, I want to say.
Yep. Yes. So well, if there's no debate left, we don't need a motion. Is there any other?
Everybody shut up.
Oh, he would be like, is there a second? So his motion to end debate. Is there a second to his motion to end debate? Seeing none, the motion fails.
Right, so based on what Deacon Myers and Judge Michelle said, I think that a number with the purpose would be more useful, and it doesn't necessarily have to be $100,000, but somewhere in the means of like 10,000 for chariot races and maybe 35 for small events like the Moving Drive and things akin to the Moving Nights would be somewhere in the right area. I don't know if it's like necessary to have low talent. I mean, before that, I wouldn't have any experience, but
I mean, I think simple.
Proxy approach again.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, talent-wise, Kendrick Lamar before he dropped the album was in the package with Steve Aoki for $60,000, and after he got real big and was getting airplay, his price alone went to $300,000 for one show. So if you just want to look at the perspective of talent, to get someone that is relevant and continue to get airplay, that everybody's going to be kind of comfortable and wanting to go to sort of shows, even for like rock bands, their prices are astronomically. Like we couldn't even consider somebody who gets 2 or 3 songs in like airplay, like with the budget we have right now.
I mean, going off of that, one of the things we've heard clamor for, and it's a smaller group we believe on campus. Rock, for instance, rock is expensive. I mean, if you're a fan of Vampire Weekend, they're $120,000, I believe, last I checked. These bands come at like very high rates, so if we want quality, we have to pay for it. Is really the last thing, but also it doesn't have to just be concerts. It should be other guest speakers. It should be larger scale events. I'd love to see more traditions show up. I don't want there to just be rock or gun at the end of the year.
Valerie?
I just want you guys to consider, like I'm saying this again, like unless you are elected in, like you will not have a say on what's the money's gonna be. So vote on an amount that you're okay with. Let's say they're like, I'll leave $100,000 to just talent. Like be okay with that number. You can't really be like chariot races, whatever, because you don't know. And I know a lot of you guys are running again, so you're thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be in this position, possibly, whatever. But think about it like you have no idea what this money is going to, and you feel comfortable in that voting.
Are there any comments, Proxy approach here?
Just to point that you're saying that you want to specify how much talent you guys. I would say in the fiscal year we bring about 10 to 12 artists / speakers, or even more a year, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong, Ken? In total a year, we bring like 9 to 12 artists, give or take.
Okay, this year we brought a lot.
Right, so if you just want to up the quality for every show, you're talking about a $10,000 jump per artist, which would equate to $90,000 to $100,000 either way. So, I mean, that just not necessarily will help talent, but it would just help us buy more curtains or things that we would no longer need to get rented.
Yeah.
And expenses and productions and stuff like that.
So I think we need to have a little reality check here, not just for SAB, just for any club that we give money to. No matter what we say or what anyone says money will go to, once that money is allocated, it's not up to this group to decide. It's up to next year's group, kind of speaking economically. So yes, we can have these theoretical arguments about, whether it be bookshelves or speakers. At the end of the day, whatever amount goes there, it's not up for you to say, well, that's what it's going to be for you. I hope that it goes to that, but you just have to remember that it's their budget. When you give a club a budget, it's powers and for each board member, and the club can only dictate where it goes. Do you have something else to say? Or are you going to do that? Howard?
I just basically agree with like everything Tom says.
Are there any other comments? Is there any other debate? Seeing none, we'll go to a standing vote on the motion to move $100,000 from unallocated funds to SAB. All those in favor, please stand. Is that you standing as a vote? The vote is 8 to 10 to 0, the motion fails. Now we are on debate for the motion to pass the 2015-2016 budget. Senator Blaine Brown.
I just have a question because I do believe that SAB should receive some form of increasement. Is there an amount that some of the people who aren't as behind the previous motion, I know it was a large number, that they believe is acceptable?
Yes, Senator Lee.
We have a recommendation from the
So I think that around 40, 45K would be more than enough, to expect this grant and figuring
Well, it's already allocated for in the grant. So last year was 40, and we purposely put in 100,000 to start with for next year within that.
But that's not reflected in SAB's budget, right?
No, so the way grants work is it stays in the grant project code until it's allocated. So a group would come to budget committee and or grant committee and say that they want to put on an event with SAB. The purpose of them going to grant committee would be to check that the money is available to it's not exceeding any rules and bylaws. For example, we have a 50% cap on asset grants of the funds. So if the cap was on at some point, the budget committee would be able to stop it at that point. And then the grant would then go to SAB. SAB would determine the finalized they'd be given a maximum amount allowable amount by grant committee. And they then determine how to allocate it and if they wanted to do the events.
P.P. Myers?
So knowing that now, I think that, maybe I would suggest 30,000 because we put a lot of buffers. I think we call them. We put a lot of buffers on our events for unintended or unexpected spending expenditures that we might have or might incur. So an example would be last minute food orders or runners for getting items for the artists or something like that. So normally we set at least 10,000 for the bigger events. We have around 3,200 students, so for best and bachelor group. And then I think we also have another 10K buffer for the year overall.
There's a 7K difference just because of the normal bylaws. But we were keeping a 10K buffer overall for everything, and then based on how much each event was and what the estimated risk was, we added in extra buffers. For example, we would overestimate CSS to make sure that whatever costs came in, we were still on budget with it. And those are the types of buffers.
Yeah, I just have another follow-up. I brought it up twice already tonight, but my biggest suggestion to all of you is to just add, I hope that you're in favor of increasing student activity this year, at least $5. That would give USG $160,000 worth of next year. Excuse me. And I think that some of that could be moved into SAB as well. But that's my recommendation. To push it back.
Is there any other, or any motions? Yes?
I'd move to allocate $40,000 from the unallocated funds to SAB.
Second by Fox, motion. Is there any debate? Seeing none, the vote is standing vote on the motion to allocate $40,000 from unallocated funds to the SAB budget. All those in favor, please stand now.
Someone put this hat in my house like 4 years ago. It's a free hat.
Does Jordan Arnett want to cast a vote?
People sat down. Too late.
With a vote of 11 to 7 to 0, the motion fails. Yes? Those on the prevailing side would have to motion to reconsider. What was your vote? What was your vote? No. You voted yes. No. Someone who voted no would have to motion to reconsider now that 2 weeks ago. Yes?
Motion to reconsider.
Is there a second? Second by Senator Domino. Is there any debate? Cool. All those in favor of moving $40,000 from the unallocated funds to the SAB budget, of SAB allocation, please stand now. Please stay standing.
Where does Rocky sit? Does like to sit?
We can go standing for a while.
Frank can sit. Merlito can sit. There's actually so many votes that I can't even see the names, so I have to keep scrolling. You know, my name? Yeah.
Yeah.
So with a vote of 13 to 6 to 0, the motion passes. Now, reflective of, now going back to the original motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget, SAD will now have, what, 650? 650,000. Is there any debate on the 2015-2016 budget? No. Yes.
So how much money is left in our allocated funds?
270, about 260.
We allocated 5.
255.
My suggestion is with like the final rating, I mean, do something with that money, because I know that you only need 170,000 for the, rollover for next year, I mean, not rollover,
So there's 170,000 that's eligible to go towards the clubs that lost that budget. You have 8 more clubs at minimum just in the fall semester that are going to be trying to get on budget. That those unallocated funds go towards different things that we mentioned earlier that are available, like variable in the budget that go over every year. We tried to like fix some of that for next year, but you never know. But you're also going to have new clubs from SSC in the spring that are trying to get a budget done too. Like there's 29 that are acknowledged, and there's another like certain that can be loans. I think that are funding and should be completely eligible by the spring. And you're also going to have other clubs from your money that's different things. You might want, if you have unallocated funds next year that are available, you'll be able to reappropriate them then too.
Is there any other debate? Seeing none, we'll go to a roll call vote on the motion to approve the 2015-2016. Yes, Tim. Oh, I'm sorry. What's up, guys?
This is from Khaki Chinese Association.
Oh, man, I was like, I thought I got every part. All right, yeah, well,
Yes, so, I'm wondering, why did our budget,
Yours might have been a mistake. Sorry,
Dum,
good
dum,
try.
Wow.
This is the first time I've heard her say that. Guys, I don't know what to do.
Wait, no, I mean, she's huge.
Is she though?
Is she?
Is she though? I mean, I put her and Lloyd at the same level as like Goku. Like, I mean, I don't know. We need to get like Lord Bills in here or something to like defeat them.
You have so much nerd knowledge that no one else is picking up on.
Chris knows what I'm talking
Yeah, those are the. I think
I'd ask to set to stay at ease. There are no objections.
So that's the correct amount, what was actually cut from your budget? So a lot of the food was reduced for cultural clubs, and like every club in general, what we did was for the food that had to like retain mission statements sort of thing, so like ordering, like the bows, I think, bows. Stuff like that, like those were, types of things that were allocated for, like what you had from your event grant. You guys had also applied for, a lot of apparel, which went over, so like apparel and things like that were, cut. Your off-campus trips were all free passive, and since you get that through your grant, like you did this year, and like you're not able to get that in your budget, so that was a solid, 7,500 that wasn't appropriated into it because of like you go through that. So that is, like that's what those grants are funded for. Media services were around $20, and your fusion night, all of your fusion night services were completely out, like given to you.
Can we not, just not go through what was cut and what was not cut? I asked that standard before it comes to before the whole clubs. Was there a mistake or was it not a mistake?
Mistake on that part, but there particular item there.
So what we've been doing is for all the clubs, as opposed to actually going through what was cut and why it wasn't cut, just to keep it fair across the board, we're asking clubs who did come, like, to appeal for a specific item that they believe, or a specific amount that they believe their club would not be able to function without. So in the event that you do believe such, I would ask you to make the case.
In terms of the costume, the regional grant doesn't completely cover. As you may know, this year I believe it cost upwards of $7,500. We applied for the regional grant, that covered $3,900. So that's the rest of the difference we have to cover ourselves. And second of all, the food that we allocated for, the money that we allocated for the food, Chinese cuisine is like a central part of our culture, and it's, in a way, it's what Taiji is known for. We try to differentiate ourselves from different clubs, from the other cultural clubs. Instead of hosting one big night, we host smaller scale but still big events, and that's what we need to do as well.
So, I was gonna say, like, yeah, we agreed with that, that's why the only stuff we cut, or, I'm looking at now, there's like 2 other things that we cut, but the only food items besides those 2 things were all, Domino's. It was Domino's. Like, all of those things, so we gave you, Yeah, like the Chinese egg custards and like the sort of Chinese packaged candies, the Chinese food trays, the traditional Chinese clothes. That was sorry. That amount was reduced because you asked for 23,000 for that, so we gave 1150. Just because it like it's supposed to be a taste, and we were trying to make it so like everybody can still do stuff. So those were the big things. Because yeah, I was surprised myself because like your club does have like a normally large budget. You guys haven't been active, and I think that maybe we're in the club like all year long. So that's why I was just
Guys.
You said you moved from 2,500 to 1,150.
yeah. So and then you lost the FedEx playbills for China Night. You know what those are? Yeah. So because that was a 1080. You're given everything in contract services.
I understand reduction in foods such as McDonald's and whatnot, but how does that reflect $6,500 in company reduction?
Because it's also your hold on, your total application was for 22,000. You were given 8. So out of the food, you're given almost 3,000, like 2,700. Your contracted services, you were given the full amount of 2,640. Miscellaneous, you were given over half, which was 1,700. You were given all of your operational expenses, which was 1,188. Your off-campus trips were completely cut because the only thing that was for ICASU, and since it's not like you don't know all the exact costs and stuff like that, and it's not completely guaranteed or whatever. That's why you're able to get the grant in the first place this year. That's why you're the same reason you're not entirely able to get it next year. So the reason why that grant was brought up into existence in the first place, it was because of sport clubs. So you have sport clubs who have to qualify, not just sport clubs, other clubs do too, but benefits and very generally have to qualify for a nationals or regionals type of event. So one of the criteria for getting those grants, which you got this year, was that you would have been able to allocate for the budget because it's not guaranteed that you would be able to go to it.
Without the grant, we probably wouldn't have been able to go to ICASU unless we cut several of our events, and most of our events are pretty well known throughout the cultural community.
Also, I just mentioned that ICASU, every year we always have a lot of people wanting to go with us. So registration hasn't grown every year. And we go to these conferences because we want to learn more about youth culture. Pretty much, it's a giant conference with a lot of other schools and clubs. So they teach us how to so it's a great way to network with other organizations. With schools, and we learn how to manage there as to how to spread our culture on campus. Some of these are addressed we address the social issues as socialism, and things like that. So the hospital is a really good learning experience, not just for us as well, but for this is why we absolutely possible if you want to play. In addition, there are workshops that have speakers, not just speakers, but a lot more speakers that every year. That will basis on the social, political activism that really inspire us to go on events that will hopefully inspire the community.
Senators, this is a case that is going to you guys, not just turning Michelle. So in light of these appeals, are there any movement or questions that the Senate has for the academy members, representatives? Yes.
Of the things that have been diminished from your budget as explained by Kat, what is the most important thing? If you had to select one of them, what is the most important thing?
Basically,
I'd say the most important thing would be our cultural foods. We understand if you guys want to dress stuff like Domino's and soda, but we'd like to keep the allocation for our cultural foods because not only do the Southern community like associate Chinese culture with Chinese cuisine, but it's something that we've always done in the past, and at the same time, the cultural food allows us to teach them about Chinese traditions, cultures, and history. So I'd say the food.
Want to put this out there, 14 minutes.
Usually the idea of Chinese food is misleading. Usually people think orange chicken or like chicken wrap. But honestly, we don't use any of that money for any of that. We use it for specifically traditional food that we can't get.
How much,
Senator Blazy Brown?
question, how much was our budget cut for traditional foods? Specifically stuff pertaining to traditional foods, not the Domino's that you want.
If you give the full amounts for all of the, for cultural foods, which for the record, they, across the board, they were all pretty much like decreased to a certain amount that would give them enough for a taste for them. Was, if you add that, the total food cost will be $6,140.
Is that without pizza?
Correct, without pizza.
So 6,000 was removed, or?
No,
I'm asking for
like,
the removed.
about 3,000.
Was removed. And one thing, it may seem a lot, but a lot of people do come to our events, which is why our food is so expensive. We have to buy a higher quantity. Not only that, but I believe half our food events are ticketed. So we take that revenue back and allocate it to non-food events, specifically China Night, our biggest event, it's our biggest expenditure. So that's what we use the revenue for.
So if you were to, just like so everyone's aware of like numbers, if you were to allocate the food items that were put to the full capacity, that would bring their budget allocation for this coming year, up to 11,700.
Is that less or more than they had last year?
Plus.
So, if I may ask, was the only reason their budget was reduced was due to food quantity? How was their operations during the year?
What do you mean, how? Like,
Operations, vouchers, et cetera, being in contact with you, KPI, I guess.
It's been really good. It's been really good.
Senator Jordan?
Just, like, if they get more money back, then it's not going to
They haven't asked.
It was covered while you were not here. I know you had class during this time, but they made an appeal, which was granted. Biomedical engineering made an appeal, which was not granted. Black Buildings Association made an appeal, which was not granted. We had. Yes, Roxanne.
I just want to point out that we did reach some sort of, I guess, middle point with sailing, and we did try to accommodate some sort of increase to help them out with whatever we can. I understand that we don't, can't get capacity from the actual as well, but we need to, kind of keep it on par that if they do show sufficient need, just like sailing did, that we need to, come as a Senate to some conclusion of how much more we can help them with, or if that's the decision we want to go.
Senator John?
I agree also with,
There we go.
That simply you said also great, we met in between, I propose a 50%, so, 3,000, so you pay 1,500 increase to their funding specifically to, sorry, products. So just that, so 1,500 allocated from unallocated funds to.
Okay, second by Senator Sani. Is there any debate? Did everybody hear that motion?
1,500?
You didn't hear the motion? Yeah, he motioned to move $1,500 from unallocated funds to the academy budget. Is there any debate? Yes, what's up?
So I would just like to ask, what would that KPI for the year?
I honestly think we should give them the full amount. I know they operate on a very wonderful basis, so. Drop this down, go for it.
Huh? Let me know.
Why not just motion to amend? I guess I could.
Is there any objections to extended meeting time? There are objections.
Yes, I'm voting right.
You don't have to speak your rights either. Please sit down. Please sit down.
Tattletale.
There are objections from the senators. All those in favor of extending the meeting time by 15 minutes, please stand.
Under law, under New State law.
The motion passes.
Oh my God, that's not That's my personal sentiment.
Yes.
I move to amend the motion to the full $3,000.
Can you repeat your motion, please?
I move to amend the motion to an amount of $3,000 for the full amount.
The full amount of $3,000. Is there a second? Second by proxy Barrage.
So we need to pass, I have a discussion
Yes,
about this.
so we need to pass the amendment to his motion.
Oh, yeah, you guys asked a question.
Alright, so Cassidy was very active, they came into office, and this is one of the reasons why I'm saying that we gave you guys this stuff is like good for home. Okay, alright, so, sure, sorry. So your KPI is 9, and what we told you was the, like, lead vouchers. But that said that they did come in and they follow up with a lot of stuff. Like, they did a lot of things, and, you know, that's where the stuff that comes in, so.
Just one thing to say, guys. When you really get down to the core purpose of this organization, is to spend money. It's not to save money. Spend money in a way that makes student life better on campus for everyone. And I've been told that, you know, of the clubs that lost their budget this year, it adds up to about $70,000. They're only eligible for 50% next semester. That comes out to $85,000. We have $250,000 left for unallocated funds. That means that we've got only $85K going towards that, with like about $150,000 of buffer for next year. Buffer. You don't need that money. Like, spend the money, give it to the clubs here tonight, do something. That's all I have to say. I mean, I gotta get going because I'm a commuter, but, you know, do something with that.
Love the haircut.
Now we are still coming to,
Is there any debate?
Yes. Amending your motion.
No.
You amending your motion, oh, I'm sorry, it was Senator John Bell's motion. Okay. Is there any debate? Senator Barrage.
I happen to we are gonna use the data that we have, but we're also gonna use our knowledge as senators, as people around. The CASB's events are very large scale. They do center a lot around food, and they do offer a very cultural experience. Well, that was the number that was taken from them.
That for food.
Roughly.
Oh yeah, I didn't just pull the number out of my
Yeah,
ass.
that's totally, if you wanted to give them the full amount for all of that food, you would just.
I'm returning to cultural food.
Except for
None of
American foods. Okay, Yes.
Point of parliamentary inquiry, what is the motion on the floor?
For $3,000.
Shush. It's to amend Senator John Manal's motion, he motioned for 1,500 from allocated funds to CASB budget. Senator Blaise Brown moved to amend that number to $3,000. Okay. Can you fill in?
We can't have emergency meeting tomorrow. Half the people here.
So is there any debate? Yes.
Well, like, I do agree with Ken, like, just, like, what you just decided for all the other clubs in the beginning, like, that would be really horrible if you just, like, gave all the money out, and like, oh, Casby just happened to be the last ones here, and they get really lucky. So just be careful with why you're deciding to give them the full amount, not that I don't think you guys deserve it, but just make sure you can justify it.
Well, just to clarify your point, it's not full amount. I asked every club to appeal for a certain, like, a particular thing, and that's what it is. And same thing with Black Women's Association, they appealed for a particular thing to the stage, which was not granted.
Excuse me, sorry, you did not put
The stage?
she's expressing question.
Like, what she appealed was like, that was $5,000, that's equivalent to the budget that's currently allocated.
She was directing in the concept that she had been aware of our budget before this meeting. She wasn't exactly doing it.
Okay. Senator Blaise Brown.
So I just want to point out that I made this motion without Ken's wonderful soapbox speech, which was, I agree with, but this is not some like emotionally charged thing. I do believe that there is merit behind this motion, so it's not just, fluff.
We are still on the.
To counter what Matthew said.
Yes.
It seems as though this directly related to the emergency that they need to be
Senator Barraza.
To Mary's point, Joe, did we allocate full money for all cultural events for all cultural clubs?
We didn't grant full money, what we did was like every year so what we did was we went through and we allocated, only for food that pertained to the cultural event. But of that, we usually reduced it to an amount that was like lower. Because I mean, you do have clubs that are coming, there was like one club that allocated $23,000 for some food. Like, so it, nobody is getting like the full amount for it.
Thoughts, Coach?
I'm just gonna point out that like you said, would be neutral. We didn't come to a full agreement to get sailing in the export. We just kind of like, we'll help you out a little bit with what we can. We didn't give the exact full amount. And I think if we're gonna, just give complete amount back to somebody else, then if we gave sailing partial funding for something else, then it's something that needs to be addressed, then we should just be neutral and meet every club halfway and give them something to work with instead of just being like, let's give everything back to you.
Is there any other debate? Yes.
So, bring up what Proxy associate said. As far as the readjust option, I mean, most of the clubs are still here. And if it wasn't a emotionally charged thing, then that would be like readjusting would be a thing here.
I call the question. We're running out of time. We got to move.
If there's no more debate, we're going to motion that debate. Is there any more debate? Seeing none, we'll move to a roll call.
Okay, so I called the question.
Yes.
I'd like to add one more thing. Our events, in which we pull in upwards of 150 people. Fusion Festival, we sold 196 tickets. Bow Night, around 170 people came. China Night, 350 came last year. So these food, this food is magic. It's going to they come out, and we actually utilize it. And another thing is, our budget's getting cut 43%, which is under 50%. So we can't go under 4 regions. So it's really significant amount for 43%.
I think that there is a significant difference in having, so a lot of clubs, they have food, and they have it a lot, they don't have it free. As I said, they do use it to bring in revenues that we can use for other events. So that
is there any other debate? Seeing none, we'll move to a standing vote on, this is on Senator Blaise Brown's motion to amend Senator John Manal's motion that would increase the amount allocated back into CASB's budget by $1,500, so making the total $3,000 that is allocated from unallocated funds into capital budget. All those in favor of doing so, please stand. Please remain standing, all those in favor.
It's to make the total 3,000 as opposed to 1,500.
Please, those in favor, please stand. It is to increase it to $3,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right over there.
Okay, so please remain standing. Would like to say?
I don't even know what time we leave. Oscar, what
The vote of 11 to 7, the motion fails. So now we are on Senator John Manal's motion to increase, to move $1,500 from unallocated funds into CASB's budget. Senator Blazenbrown.
I call the question. We're running out of time.
Is there a second?
Debate.
Okay, motion to end debate. Second by Senator Jamal. All those in, John Manal, all those in favor of ending debate, please stand now. Unanimous. Now we'll go straight into a vote on whether to allocate $1,500 from unallocated funds back into the CASB budget. All those in favor, please stand now. Unanimous. Senator Jordan, so it's 16 to 1 to 0. The motion passes. Now we were on a vote. Yeah, we were on a vote to approve the budget. Being that it was interrupted, technically we are still in debate. Senator Blazenbrown.
I call the question yet again. We're running out of time.
Is there any debate? What, did you have debate?
I have debate.
Okay. Is there a second to?
Rescind, whatever. It doesn't exist.
Senator Levishina.
Okay, I have another idea. Like Ken said, we do these extra funds, and if WSB can only get 50% of their budget back, that's correct. I think we should give them the 50% now, so they don't have to worry about it in the fall. It's much less paperwork, and I just think that would be right. So I want a motion to allocate $31,600 to WSB from the unallocated funds.
Is there a second?
Seconded.
By Senator Gilly.
You're talking about adding a complete budget to somebody who didn't have a budget. Right now, we've been addressing the fact that clubs who needed more money did submit a budget, did do the things they were supposed to do. And now you're just, because we have money, so we have to waste it, quote unquote. It's not saying waste it, but we necessarily don't have, I don't think that we should give it to a club who had $0 just so that it's less paperwork for the next USG or like next student government.
It is a special case though. So.
I mean, I agree it's a special case, but there's not one or two people on the keyboard.
Well, there was a second one.
I know, but there's a keyboard.
Okay, all right. Not going anywhere. Is there any other debate? This was a seconded motion. All right. Seeing none, the was 31,600.
Correct.
All right. All those in favor of moving $31,600 from unallocated funds into WUSB's budget, please stand now. Please stand now. All right. You guys can sit down. We voted 7 to 11. The motion fails. Now we are still in debate on passing the 2015-2016 budget. Proxy approach. You have debate?
No, question, call the question.
Seconded.
If there's no debate, you need to do, is there any debate?
There's always debate.
Is there any debate? Seeing none, we will move to a roll call vote on the motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget.
Did you hit OT yet, our parliamentarian?
Huh?
Have you hit OT yet?
Yeah, of course not.
No. Senator Blazing Brown.
Yes.
Senator Barad.
Yes.
Senator Cheslak.
Yes.
Senator DiVirgilio.
Yes.
Senator Fang.
Yes.
Senator Ippolito.
Aye.
Senator Jaminow.
Aye.
Senator Jeng.
Yes.
Senator Jordan Arnett. Proxy Akochia.
Yes.
Senator Lakshmanan.
Yes.
Senator Lamborghino. Senator Mealy. Senator Meow. Senator, PPT Pomeroy.
Aye.
Proxy Barad.
Aye.
Senator Said.
Aye.
Senator Williams.
Where's the big bird?
What? Vote of 1701, the motion passes. There's a 2015-2016 budget for next year.
Thank you.
Guys, can I go back to sleep?
Moving on to the next agenda item, the UP Act resolution.
Table this indefinitely.
Second by Senator Polito. Are there any objections to that?
Wait, was it?
We'll move on to the 2015 Constitution Act, presented by, yes. I know.
Second.
Too late. Are there any objections? No. So we are on open agenda.
I tell you.
Announcement, the Vans for Student Assembly will leave at 2:30, not at 12, 2:30. If you lose, you lose. Sucks. 2:30 p.m. in the afternoon. Yes, you can sleep.
I can do this.
Administrator. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I just realized.
Right. Sorry, everybody wants to go home. Okay, so, just make it short. So, BWA was reinstated back to budget line status. And, we gave in our budget application a due one for last year and as well as this semester. And, I talked to Catherine, she said I was gonna give a month process, but then I was able to talk to Taylor to expedite into a 2 weeks process. So we can get our budget back on April 16th, the second Thursday. I don't know exactly, 16 or 17. But however, vouchers are due that same day. So I was asking if you guys can give us a 24-hour extension to give in our vouchers so that we can actually have our event for the festival.
Kat, is this something that we have the power to change? She wants a 24-hour extension on vouchers due to the fact that their budget will be reinstated on the 16th and vouchers are due on the 16th. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
Sweet.
Oh, it's the 16th in the email. No, the event's the 25th. There's so many people. What? It's there are a lot of vouchers. We will work on them now. All we need to know is the price of adjustment, like we already know what we want, but that we can't put it in because we don't know the exact price.
So, Kat, just to clarify, is this something that the Senate has the power to change, or is this more appropriate a conversation that can be had with you? So,
I would make the argument that the Senate has a balance of power if they would like to push for a 24-hour extension, that they could do follow.
I move to give them a 24-hour
It would be
extension.
up to the approval of the fiscal agent.
Who's the fiscal agent?
Gina.
When did you?
I move to give them a 24-hour extension.
Second. Mrs. Full discussion. Second by Sir Florad.
It's kind of like a, I don't know that this is
Your motion
official.
is to do what?
I mean, it can't be an,
Extend the 24-hour extension at the approval, with the approval of the fiscal agent.
For the specific
so
club.
moved.
For the specific club.
Second by Senator.
For the specific club.
Oh, for Black Women's Association. Thank you, Oscar.
Okay. All those in favor, please stand.
What is called proclamation? Wait, are we sure it's unanimous? That people have to stand for me?
Motion to adjourn. Thank you, senators.
Okay, get these tables.
Especially Budget Committee for putting in all the effort and time for the last 2 weeks. I would just ask you guys to put back the chairs and the desks. 95%. Please help me put back the chairs and the desks.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.